45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything's possible!
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Kicking It with Kruse. I'm your host, as always, Ben Kruse. Hopefully, you guys are having a good start to your week. Obviously, we're into the early stages of the month of November, and obviously, there's the weather, of course, around me is getting a lot, darker, colder, kind of earlier on during the day. So I'm just trying to keep myself kind of, upbeat, motivated. Of course, it's daylight savings times now. So I'm just obviously just trying to get myself accustomed to that, used to it as usual. Hopefully, you guys have been just doing well. I know for myself, I'm doing all right. Welcome, of course, for those that haven't joined the show yet. Welcome to Kicking with Kruse. And we plan to have my two co-hosts, James Gonzalez and Isaiah Leon, uh, during the show at some point. So looking forward to that as usual. In terms of our topics, we're going to actually start with NFL first. Kind of getting through our week 9, week 10. At least it's going to be the mid part of the season. The recap of week 9, I believe. Yeah, week 9. And then week 10 is going to be coming up. We're going to have our picks for that. So can't wait for that. We'll also talk about some of our power rankings for our AFC and NFC of NFL so far, as we're kind of really in that middle part of the season now where we're going to start to kind of get into some crunch time, which is scary to think because I feel like the season has really just flown by, especially like a lot of other sports that are going on. But yeah, here we are. It always flies by for sure. Then we'll get into some NBA talk. Of course, the NBA season has kind of started last couple of weeks at least to start. So we'll kind of at least get a overall good baseline kind of where teams are. It's kind of some early overall observations like last episode. And then baseball, it's a massive busy part of the baseball season as it's now, of course, the off season. And now it's the official time of free agency as players are officially now eligible to talk with other teams as the free agency window opened on Monday. And so we'll get into overall predictions, where guys going, like a guy like Shohei Ohtani, aka the best player in the baseball, and much more. So make sure, like I said, if you guys really like my content and the content that we have here on the program, make sure to follow, like, comment, and subscribe to the IM6 and the MI16 network. We would greatly appreciate you guys' love and support. We will be having some other shows throughout the week, including our wrap-up baseball show, which I believe is going to be in the next couple days here this week with my colleagues Isaiah Leona and Laura Antonio. So just a lot to get into, this week and the next couple weeks. So also hopefully try to get back on the face-off, which is led by Taylor, another colleague of mine, and he does a great job talking hockey, and looking forward to talking hockey hopefully soon with him as well too. So for those that want to comment throughout the show, by all means feel free. But without further ado, I feel like we can get started. And so we will first start with our NFL talk. And I know obviously we kind of start do NFL a little bit later on the program. But we're going to kind of do a little bit different because I want to make sure that my colleagues that come on for the show for tonight, they are going to be able to do our predictions in terms of baseball or free agency talk for sure. So let's at least kind of go through the recap of week 9 uh, in baseball. Aaron, baseball and football. I'm sorry. So I'll at least kind of start with the week 9 recap, and then I'll get into my winners and losers from this past week. So at least I'll start with my team. I was at the Patriots game this past Sunday, my first game of the season. Despite the way that they've been playing this year, it was awesome to be back. With the fans and stuff like that. It's a great crowd of people. Great to be back. An awesome day. But unfortunately, it wasn't awesome for the Patriots. They fell 20-17 to the Washington Commanders. Um, you know, they were in this game, I'd say, from the start to the finish, but just consistently shooting themselves in the foot, which is pretty much kind of been a storyline of their season. Pretty much kind of was the end of that. So I do own my first colleagues of the night, James Gonzalez, as usual. James, hopefully you're having a good night so far. I know obviously it's on the earlier side for me, but as I said before you came on, James, that it's daylight savings times now, and so it's like in the Northeast, the days are just getting so much darker, so much colder. It's really just that time of year, at least where it is now. It's 10:46 in terms of where I am. It's pitch black. It's 7:46 probably. You're probably starting to get just dark now. Not yet.
That was around 5 when it got fully dark. Now.
Yeah. Well, I guess 5, but really just kind of overall because I'm obviously 3 hours ahead of you guys. So, just kind of the overall baseline of that. But James, how are you doing, my friend? And thanks for joining as always.
Winning cures everything. We'll talk about that more. But man, winning feels good, and losing always hurts. Talk about the Raiders, but man, there's been a lot going on. MLB. This is why I love the off season. Like literally anything can happen. Well, we thought about console. We'll get into all that, but man, I just love the MLB in the off season because you'll have some funky surprises going on. I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes, we'll definitely get into a lot of that stuff, specifically in baseball, because the rumor season is starting to kind of come into fruition with a lot of teams starting to get their new vacancies out there. So obviously, very exciting stuff. So James, we're definitely going to start first with NFL, which I know we usually don't start with, but we're going to do it for tonight because hopefully Isaiah Leon will come later on to do the baseball with us, and we'll do more baseball with him compared to what we did last show with him. So we're going to get into our week 9. As I mentioned before, he just came on. Crazy to think that this season has just really flown by. Week 10 already. And it's going to be pretty much at the half point of this season already. So the first game I just recapped was my game as I was at that game. The Patriots season continues to be at a decline right now. They fell 20-17 to Washington, essentially a team that is, let me say it best, they're really tanking, I guess, in a way, where they moved on from 2 of their best defensive players in Chase Young and Montez Sweat. It just being there was obviously awesome and great. But it's just a very eerie feeling, especially being there specifically this year, kind of compared to the last couple of years. Just the energy wasn't as used to, right? In the last couple of years during the dynasty. I mean, usually the energy at Gillette's very rocking. Even when the game was close, I mean, maybe at the end, I guess, was kind of picked up a little bit because, of course, the game is still within reach. But Pats are now at 2-7, and now the questions come with Bill Belichick's future. I know that. I know a lot of people weren't expecting to talk about Bill Belichick's future midway, but here we are, a 2-7 team for a team that shouldn't really be at this point in stage of their franchise. So obviously we'll have to kind of talk more about that, another time. But they fell 20-17 to the Washington Commanders. The Steelers won 20-16 over the Titans. And then Sunday, the first game, a game that I actually watched at the DraftKings Sports book suite at Gillette Stadium. The Chiefs defeated the Dolphins 21-14. It was a lower scoring type game. Chiefs go to 7-2, and the Dolphins go to 6-3. The Vikings defeated the Falcons after Joshua Dobbs literally got brought in there, literally off the streets from Arizona. Came in after Jaron Hall got hurt, and he put up 2 touchdowns, including a rushing touchdown. So essentially it was 3 touchdowns, and came back to beat the Falcons 31-28. The Browns were all over the Cardinals, 27-0. The Packers defeated the Rams 20-3. The Saints defeated the Bears 24-17, a lot closer game than I expected. The Ravens all over the Seattle, and the Ravens, James, right now might be the hottest team in football. A lot of people really are kind of, they could talk about, the Chiefs, the Dolphins, but people have to realize that the Ravens are really feeling themselves right now. 37 points against Seattle. They won 37-3 in this game this past Sunday. The Texans, thanks to a 5-touchdown game by C.J. Stroud, defeated the Buccaneers 39-37 in a shootout affair. Great job by CJ, as he's really potentially going to be the offensive rookie of the year. The Colts defeated the Panthers 27-13. The Raiders, James, your Raiders, obviously, the first game post Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce's first game, with a 30-6 dub over the New York Giants. The Giants are really kind of in a similar situation as the Patriots, and maybe even worse. Daniel Jones got hurt. He tore his ACL, and he's unfortunately out for the season. Prayers to Daniel Jones. This could be potentially his last possible game with the Giants, because the Giants are really now in a state where they could be looking at a quarterback for the long term for sure over there with the Giants there. The Eagles edged out the Cowboys in a great game, which I was expected to see. 28-23. Jalen Hurts had 2 touchdowns, including one to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So the Eagles go to 8-1, and Cowboys go to 5-3. The Sunday night game, of course, which a lot of people probably thought was going to be a close game, and it lived up, I would say, to the hype for the most part. The Bengals continue their hot streak at home. They defeated the Bills 24-18. And then the Chargers defeated the Jets 27-6. The Jets' offense is just an absolute disarray with Zach Wilson there. Yeah. And, the Chargers, obviously, I thought their offense was very up and down, but it came down to their defense, made just a ton of plays, and the Jets' offense is just not it. And then the bye teams were the Isaiah's 49ers, the Jaguars, the Lions, and the Broncos. So, James, that being said, let's get now into our Week 9 winners and losers. For me, so I'll go first, the winners for me. So my first winner, I'm going to go with the Texans. C.J. Stroud, 5 touchdowns. They lost the week before to the Panthers. And I'm really happy for the Texan fans out there, because they've been missing this moment, right? They've been missing for a quarterback that they can firmly say that this is going to be a long-term answer. And this is the guy. I feel like, when you're bad for many, many years, you're going to eventually hit on something. And this is what the Texans finally hit on. They finally hit on the quarterback of their future in C.J. Stroud. And he went up for 5 touchdowns. Now, James, the Texans are 4-4. They're firmly in it. And with the way that this year's football season's kind of gone, with a lot of these tough, a lot of these teams that have really just been sliding, right? They have a really good shot to possibly, I wouldn't say, make the playoffs, but they have a really good shot to make things just interesting come season's end. So I have the Texans as my first winner. My second winner, James, I'm going to go with the Raiders. The Giants obviously aren't a great team, but it's overall just team morale, right? You literally fired your coach, Josh McDaniels. Devontae Adams is throwing stuff, flipping, whatever on the sideline. And then, of course, the week changes. And now, you have the guys, smoking cigars in the locker room after the game is done. You just feel like just that overall, at least for a week, the flip of a script, which is obviously was relieving to see for you, James. So I'm going to go with that. And then for me, I'm going to go with Cincinnati as my third winner, because Cincinnati is now on a 4-game winning streak. They're really, after the first couple of games, Joe Burrow, people are asking, should he play the rest of the year? For a couple of games, they did win kind of early on the season. Like, well, he didn't do a ton, but really they've kind of started to click things for sure. And that's, I think, kind of the Bengals that we're kind of starting to see a little bit. So They beat the Bills the other night. Yeah, the Bills haven't been great this year, but they're still a really solid team. You beat the Niners the week before, so they're really starting to come on the up climb over there in Cincy. My losers, I want to say my Patriots aren't a loser because they're pretty, competitive. Man, I'm gonna go Seattle. Seattle, I thought was gonna put up a better fight against the Ravens. I mean, you lost by 30 points. Yeah, the Ravens obviously are a pretty good team, but you didn't even put up a fight. Kind of similar to what the Lions had against, the Ravens. They just got absolutely blown out. So I don't think it's, a shock, but I'm also kind of shocked at the same time. I mean, you only put up 3 points. You're not going to win many football games regardless. So that's one of my losers. The Giants are one of my losers as well too. They're really just, their season's really coming apart. And no offense to your Raiders, James, right? But I didn't expect a blow like this. I expected you guys to win, but 30-6. I mean, my goodness, there's just a lot of things bad over in New York. And then my other loser is probably the Jets. Because the Jets defense was just balling. They've been balling for that last couple of weeks. And there's just absolutely no excuse, that your offense just can't move the football. But the 4-4 team, it's crazy to think they're 4-4. And you don't have a quarterback that can consistently get in the end zone and move the football to win football games. So, yeah, you put up 263 yards, right? But if you can't find the end zone, you only have 6 points, what does that do? Right? So those are my winners and losers from this past week. Now I'll go to you, James, and who are your past winners and losers from this week?
Okay, you took all my winners and losers, but I'll just come up with some. No. But it's good because we know what happened. Mm-hmm. We're not on different pages. We're not watching different games of the same game. That's what's good about it. No, I think my winner and loser are both in the same game. Minnesota, for doing what they did on the road, with Hall going out and then Dobbs coming in the game and leading a comeback like that. That was awesome. I saw the last, I think the country did, if they were watching Fox, the last, minute or so or 2 minutes. That took a lot. And it shows you Joshua Dobbs, he can play anywhere on a backup basis, or if you need him to start, he can play anywhere. It's awesome to see that. He's with Tennessee, with Pittsburgh before. He got an opportunity this year with Arizona. For some reason, they traded him. I don't get it. But, man, just the comeback that was led by Dobbs and everybody else. And I know Matheson had a good game. But everybody stepped up. And even KJ Osborne, who got hurt, they still went on to win without him. So that was great to see. So the Vikings are my winner, and then the losers would be Atlanta. How many times are they gonna blow a fourth quarter lead, especially when they're up so much? And we're expected to believe Arthur Smith is a great coach and all this and all that, and there's just something about the Falcons, though. You know what happened in that Super Bowl. You know what the hell happened. Yep. Everybody hates that 28-3, and that's because of the Falcons. They just keep it going. It doesn't matter who the coach is, who the quarterback is. I mean, they made a quarterback change. Good for them, but their defense can't stop anybody, and when the other team gets going, they lose. So definitely, I think Green Bay should be a winner too, because I know they were playing a Rams team that was banged up, and they, what's horrible about the Rams. I'm not going to call them a loser, but Cooper Kupp was barely used. It wasn't until I think the second quarter when he got his first reception. I was watching the game in LA with my dad, and I'm thinking, we were thinking, where the hell is Cooper Kupp? He wasn't a factor, and then Aaron Donald was a factor, but kind of later on. But good for Jordan Love, though. That's why he's a winner this week, because he looked good. He threw well, and that was great to see. And then guess what? They got Aaron Jones involved. Thank God. Who would have known? It was like you have him there. You have Dylan. Yeah, you have Dylan, but you have Jones, who's your main guy, and they finally went to him. Loser would be Seattle too, just because, man, they didn't show up. I don't know if it's just, heading to the East Coast. Maybe that was a bad thing. And then another loser. Well, damn it, with the Cowboys, I knew they weren't going to get a touchdown at the end there. I kept telling my friend Kevin, I said, man, I feel like Dak is going to throw a pick over the middle here, or something's going to happen, like a fumble. But they cost themselves the game a couple of times, stepping out or not getting in the end zone like the tight end. But they just lost in the Cowboy fashion, and that felt like a playoff game. The Eagles and Cowboys, the one or the afternoon game. But you could say the Cowboys are the loser, definitely. But man, that just happens all the time. So those are my winners and losers of Week 9.
All right. Now let's get into our Week 10 picks. Now, Isaiah unfortunately messaged me saying that he lost his voice, so he's not going to make the show tonight. But he is going to be watching and be commenting on the program, so we'll see if he chimes in with any of his picks. But let's get into some picks, shall we? Week 10. So we'll start with Thursday Night Football. Now, James, in terms of the primetime games, we were pretty spoiled about last week in terms of the games that were had for primetime. Even though Thursday night game Titans Steelers, I didn't think it was awful of a game in terms of like a matchup wise, right? You had a young quarterback, Will Levis, who by the way is now reportedly going to be the starter for the rest of the year. Thankfully for the Titans. Then you had Bills Bengals, and then you had Chargers Jets. Jets obviously have a very good defense. So they obviously weren't bad at primetime games, but this week it's kind of different. So we'll start with the 1-7 Panthers against the 2-7 Bears. Two teams essentially are going to be in the top 5. Now, for me's sakes, James, this is a big one for me because one team goes and wins a game, right? The Patriots somehow lose. We might be sliding more into the top 3 in the draft. So it's kind of big for me, despite the fact that it's probably going to be the worst game this whole weekend. But I'm gonna go probably with the Bears here if I had to pick a winner, because I saw earlier before coming on that the Bears at least have a fairly decent running game, and the Panthers just something's going on with them. I don't know what's been going on all year. I had them as like a surprising type team this year. Bryce Jones obviously probably he's done what he could with that team, but just a lot kind of just going on with that team. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bears. They're in a 3.5 favorite. They're at home, short week in Chicago. Cubs got Craig Counsell this week. I feel like kind of it's a nice Chicago sports week in a way. And it caps up with the Bears' third win. So I'm going to go with the Bears. How about you?
Well, I know I'm going to find something else to do than watch this. I have a doctor's appointment, but it's in the afternoon. I'm trying to make that so I'm there, the whole day. Maybe I'll break something and stay at the hospital so I don't got to watch the game. No, I'm going to probably go Chicago. They're going to wear their orange horrible uniforms and the orange helmet. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know what Bryce Young it just looks like nothing's working there. I know they changed offensive coordinator duties to the OC and not having Frank Reich call the offense, but that hasn't changed a thing. They did get a win over Houston, last week, but man, I don't think it changes anything. Chicago, I want to see Montez Sweat have a impact game since he's going to be signed there for a long time, or 4 years, excuse me. I feel like, how Washington played Chicago earlier this year on a Thursday night game? I feel like it's going to be like that. And for me, I'm thinking, was there a little, what do you call it? Some illegal things happening, tampering when Sweat was traded to the Bears? I wonder if that was the case.
I don't know.
Because all of a sudden, then he signs a 4-year deal. What was I going to say? Oh, this also is a big one because remember, was it Carolina traded up with the Bears to get Bryce Young? So maybe the Bears can pile up on the but they're going to hurt their draft status though, their own draft status, but help their own draft status with beating the Panthers. That's kind of odd the way this Thursday night game is going. It really means a lot to these two teams, but not to us.
Definitely. Yeah, it's just a game that I don't think many people want to watch. It's just, you'd rather have some other things better for your time on Thursday night. All right, the 9:30 game, Sunday morning. It's my team, the Patriots, 2-7, taking on the Colts in Germany. Typically, with the Patriots going overseas, usually it's kind of for great uphill, feel good type of feel. This just doesn't feel like it's going to be a good feel with the way that this year's been going for us. But maybe a win. Maybe just not being a homer on the road in the U.S. Maybe change something a little bit here. The Colts have given up a lot of defensive points as of late, but the Patriots have only scored around 17 points. Man, I would be really, shocked if we lost again. I wouldn't be shocked in a way because just kind of on the way this year's been going. The Colts obviously got a 2-score win against the Panthers last week. I'm going to go with the Colts here. With the way this past season's going, there's not really a way I can be really kind of confident with this group. Of course, J.C. Jackson, of course, he left the game after the post game. He didn't talk to the media. Jack Jones, cornerback, there was some turmoil after the game. I was just in the radio on the way home from the game. They're starting to kind of feel some tension with Bill Belichick and that team right now. I'm going to go with the Colts. I hope that they can show out and win for a game and close out a game maybe for once. But I'm going to be at work, and maybe I'll listen to some of it to kind of see specifically where the game goes specifically. But I'm going to go Colts here. I just feel like they're in a better state right now, even though their defense has kind of given up a ton of points as of late. But I don't trust the Patriots' offense to be able to sustain the same amount of offense the Colts will. So I'm going to go with the Colts here. How about you?
I think they have a better overall team, the Colts do, defensively and offensively, just because of injuries. If Washington can beat New England, then I think Indy can. Maybe they'll show out a little more. Pittman will get his. Taylor and Moss will get theirs, get going more often, and Minshew will find a good way to throw better and throw for more yards. Downs might be a bigger factor. McKenzie as well, and Ogletree. The one thing I want to ask you, though, as I'm going to pick the Colts, but I keep seeing these articles, and then Sports Illustrated was mentioning, hey, if Belichick loses overseas, Robert Kraft might fire him, like, when they get back, to the U.S. I don't know. Do you think that's a possibility? Are they going to let him finish out the season if it gets worse? What do you think?
I personally think it's fair for him to ride it out for the rest of the year. I think for as much as we want to been criticized for him ever since Brady walked out and kind of it's been an underwhelming type of end to his career, he deserves to ride it out for the remainder of the year. And then just start to evaluate in the offseason. Because you see that this team specifically, of course, he has a lot to do with it, the coach he does. But you see that this talent, James, I mean, I saw it with my 2 eyes on Sunday. This talent needs to be better. This talent on the outside of Mac Jones needs to be better. They're going to be top 3 this offseason cap space. And I just personally think that Bill Belichick and that overall team just didn't do a good job of constructing this team for the long run, and they had to find a way to kind of turn things around. In terms of Bill specifically, my best guess would probably be he rides out for the remainder of the year. They evaluate this offseason. I wouldn't be shocked if he come back for at least one more year and maybe with all their cap space they have next year, if they can maybe kind of see if at least one more year they can kind of evaluate a little bit better of talent. But I don't think that there's a situation that even if they got blown out, for instance, and there'll probably be the articles the same way as this past week that they're going to fire him. I just don't think that they're going to fire him midway. I don't see much of bringing in a young coach like Jerron Mayo or, even Mike Vrabel. I know that they've been talking about Mike Vrabel maybe coming back. I don't see really a feel of, okay, do you want to bring a couple guys in and maybe turn things around? Why even bother? Because I'd rather have focus on this team to be in the top 5 in the NFL draft and maybe get you a potential franchise quarterback for the long term. Because as much as I do like Mac Jones, I don't think that he's the long-term answer either. So I'd rather for them to be competitive maybe throughout the remainder of the year, which I think Bill Belichick could have the ability to, despite that they don't have the talent on their roster right now, than to change things up kind of halfway through the rest of this season and try to at least maybe get yourself to 4 to 5 wins, and then maybe be, instead of like a top 5 type pick, be more of a top 15, top 20 type pick, and then you might lose the ability. That class is pretty deep this year in the draft, and I would worry that at least if you at least had like 5 to 6 wins, that you'd be out of that top 10, and that's what I would worry about. Because look at a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., right? He feels like he's going to be an NFL ready type of receiver when he gets to this league, right? Caleb Williams, obviously, I don't feel like we're going to be too far down that. I just don't see it happening. But Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., those are 2 cornerstone guys that I feel like the Patriots could take a look at, right? If they don't feel like Mac Jones is their long-term answer, they have to obviously kind of go that route. So to fully answer your question, James, I don't think that a firing halfway in this season should happen, and neither I don't think it will happen. Because I think that Bill Belichick's long-term success overall as a legendary head coach, that's pretty much a slap in the face. I feel like that would be a slap in the face specifically to him. And, if he's going to go anywhere, I'd rather have him go somewhere in the offseason, and then they can kind of reevaluate from there. So that's what I would do. But, all right, let's keep moving forward. Now, the 4-4, this is going to be a good one, James. This is a 1 o'clock game. The 4-4 Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud, of course, Ohio State quarterback. He's going back to Ohio, to Cincinnati after a 5-touchdown game. He's going to take on the 5-3 Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are in a 6.5 favorite, so they're expecting it to be a closer type of game. But since he's at home, I think that the Bengals are going to win again. I really like the way that they've been kind of going right now. I know Jamar Chase potentially could be on the injury report. He did take a little bit of an injury this past week against the Bills, but I think that this Texans team is still really young. They have a lot of room to grow, right? But I do really think that they're on the up climb for sure too. So that obviously is not a knock on the Texans. So I'm going to go the Bengals here. I think that they go to 6-3 on the season. Who do you have in this matchup?
Okay, so Texans kicker Fairbairn will be out with a quad injury, so that really hurts the chances, I think, of the Texans getting those, much-needed field goals on those stalled drives. Man, this will be a big test for C.J. Stroud because we saw what the Bengal defense can do. I mean, really disrupt things. We saw that on Sunday night against the Bills. So I think it's going to be a test. Unfortunately, CJ will fail. I think the Bengals, definitely one of the hottest teams right now. I think they're going to continue their winning streak and win over Houston in Week 10.
All right. Now let's get into a battle of 5-4 teams. This is going to be an interesting one. The New Orleans Saints are trying to take on Joshua Dobbs and Minnesota Vikings. This feels like a coin flip type game, James, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you just never know what you're going to get out of the Saints, right? They did, I believe, last week, they did win 24-17 against the Bears, right? That was pretty much a game that they should win. The Vikings had to come back against the Falcons and Taylor Heineke, but they brought in Joshua Dobbs, who played fairly decent. And, we did see kind of a glimpse overall with Joshua Dobbs with Arizona. He's not bad. He's not horrible. He's obviously not going to be a long-term type answer, but he's going to kind of be a plug-and-play type guy. Oh, man. I guess I'm going to go with the Saints here. I just think overall I got to see it consistently from Joshua Dobbs, right? But I think it'll be close. The Saints are on the 2.5 favorite. I'm going to say like 21-17. What about you? You have in Saints Vikings?
Wow. Unfortunately, Jefferson won't be available this time. Remember, last year they played in London against each other. I think the Vikings won on a field goal, I want to say, or the Saints did. Man, you can't figure out any of these teams, honestly. The Saints have been going good recently, but they played some opponents maybe the Vikings could beat. I'll tell you what, the Vikings are going to have some good stops in order for them to win. Without Osborne probably again, that they're down 2 receivers. And in New Orleans, they just have to come up big on the road. I'm going to go with New Orleans. I think they're going to pull off the road win. And, Taysom Hill is doing really well. They have those gadget plays. For Carr to be out of the game, they put in Hill, and they have these big plays for first downs. I think you're going to see a lot of that in Minnesota for the Saints. I'm going to go New Orleans on this.
All right, 3-5 Green Bay Packers. They're coming off of I feel like a much-needed win that they needed. I know it wasn't against, Matthew Stafford and the full squad of Rams per se, but they needed a win badly. They're taking on the Steelers at 5-3, and the Steelers are coming off of the win against the Titans last week. Man, give me the Steelers here. Jordan Love, I know they had a really good game last week, but I just have to see him consistently, right? The Steelers have a really good defensive scheme. Obviously, their defense has been doing a really good job causing turnovers, and I think that they're going to have a crucial turnover in this one at the end on Jordan Love. So I think that the Steelers are going to win. I'm going to go 20-17. I don't think that the Steelers have shown to me that they score a ton of points, but I don't think that they're going to have to score a lot of points in this one to win in this game. I think it could be more of a defensive battle. How about you?
Okay, so Micah Fitzpatrick probably won't be playing. He's dealing with a hamstring injury, just like a lot of other Green Bay players when you think about it. So I know the Green Bay offensive line is kind of banged up, so I expect J.J. Watt to go off. They're going to be wearing their 70s uniforms, just bigger white numbers. That's all it is, and bigger yellow sleeves. I expect, TJ Watt to go off. Frustrate Jordan Love. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh. I think they ride the momentum of the stadium. And don't adjust your sets, y'all. It's going to be yellow pants versus yellow pants. It's going to be pretty crazy to think about that. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry. The 3-5 Tennessee Titans. Titans are coming off of the last-minute loss to the Steelers. Taking on the 3-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers put up 37 points last week against the Texans, but they fell short because of the 5-touchdown game by C.J. Stroud. Baker Mayfield the last couple of weeks has been fairly effective. I think 4 touchdowns, so I think 1 interception. Will Levis, of course, he's going to be the long-term answer now, the long-term starter there. It's a tough one, James, because I feel like both teams are kind of fairly similar in a way, kind of with a lot of these matchups so far we've kind of predicted. Man, I'm going to go with the Titans. The Buccaneers, I feel like, haven't been playing well this year at home. Will Levis, I think, has kind of shown to me that there's stuff there, right? The Buccaneers have a fairly decent defense, but I think that Derrick Henry finds the end zone a couple times. And I do think that Baker Mayfield kind of falls back to earth a little bit. The Tennessee defense does have some playmakers, I think. So I'm going to go Titans here. I think it's going to be like 23-20. How about you?
I'm happy that the Titans decided to go with Levis. I know they lost last Thursday, but they've had a lot of days off to get things right. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers, didn't survive Houston. Man, it's a matchup of both teams. Basically, you would not pick against the better teams. That's basically what it is to me. I'm puzzled at like you are almost with the pick. I'll go Tennessee. I hope DeAndre Hopkins can have more of a impact. I think that'd be awesome. And you mentioned Henry, but some others too. Hopefully the other wide receivers can make an impact. And then up front with Simmons, hopefully he can get to Baker Mayfield. But one thing I've noticed about Baker, he's been rolling out more and he's making things happen. If he does that, the Buccaneers are going to win. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Damn it. I don't know. I'm going to go. Oh, God. I'm I'm gonna go Buccaneers. Vita,
Okay.
I hope Vita V will be back
Vita
for them
Vea.
up front. Via Vea, excuse
Yep.
me, will be back for them. I know he missed, I think last week's action. I'm gonna go Tampa Bay.
All right. This game should be fairly fascinating. We've got Isaiah's 5-3 San Francisco 49ers. They're going to be traveling to Jacksonville to take on the 6-2 Jaguars. The 49ers obviously are kind of reeling. I know last week they had the bye. Probably a much needed time for them. I think they're going to get Trent Williams back this week, which of course is massive. And I do think that they're going to get Deebo Samuel back this week. So the 49ers seem to get some reinforcements probably at the most important time for them. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been playing great football. They've really been playing great football for a long period of time. 6-2. So they have the Niners as a 3-point favorite, James, and probably deservedly so, especially having some of their reinforcements back. But I'm gonna go with the Jags. West Coast, East Coast type team, that kind of that Florida feel. Brock Purdy, kind of mid part of the season's had a lot of stretches where he's turned the ball over, kind of compared to earlier on the season. And I just think that this Jacksonville's defense, this front, can give that 49ers offensive line, which has had some problems, some fits in this game. I think it could be like a 27-16 type of game. I think that the Niners offense is they haven't been as dominant, right, as kind of around the season. I do think that they're going to find a way to still put up some points here. But I think that this Jags team has it in them to win. So I'm going to go with the Jags, and I guess you could say in an upset despite them being the home team because they're obviously not favored according to the bets. So how about you?
Yeah, you know what? It's convenient that both are on buys, and then they both face each other. That's crazy how that
Yep.
works. So that's really good for both. You mentioned, of course, traveling for the 49ers. And then you look at both teams, both have been hurt kind of by the injuries, but one was going a different way, one the other way. Both have great running backs, ETN Jr. and McCaffrey. I'm thinking Samuel and Chase Young both will be ready to go for Sunday. Maybe Samuel on a pitch count, I would think, but I don't know if you think Brock Purdy is kind of mid right now.
He is.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't want to tell Isaiah to his face, but
I would.
But the thing about Brock Purdy right now, James specifically, sorry, is that he might be dealing with some concussion symptoms. Remember,
Sure.
he had a little bit of a kind of a fog, I guess, earlier on, a couple of weeks ago. He had potential injury. They said that he hit his head against the field, and I think too it's kind of the Trent Williams factor, right? That left side, which is your blind side. Just the confidence of a blindside type of guy is massive in this league. So I think that if Trent Williams does come back this week, that definitely helps Brock Purdy. And I think that his confidence. You get Deebo Samuel kind of back in. Maybe they kind of start to kind of find themselves a little bit more, kind of like they were early on the season. But yeah, I have to say he's been pretty mid so far as of late. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I think Isaiah could probably tell me the same thing. Him being an Honor fan, because you can't look at me right now and say that he's playing at a so-called all-pro level, which, with those overall weapons, there's really no excuse. I know obviously there's going to be some hiccups during the season. But yeah, I mean, I think that for the teams that are playing the Niners right now, I think that there's not a team right now that's really been feared of them, maybe like they were on the season, despite the fact that they are going to get a big-time player, I believe, this weekend. That'll be Chase Young. Chase Young's going to really help their defense, because their defense, James, felt like they were the all-pro Giants against the 07 Patriots defense for the first 4 or 5 weeks. Absolutely just killing it. But on the last couple of weeks, James, they've been fairly exposed, right? They obviously 2 to 3 touchdowns against Joe Burrow. They got run down a lot. That game against the Bengals. And then the game against the Vikings, even Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins prime time usually is not obviously great to see, but Kirk Cousins turned him up. So, I mean, you just never know. And just that Niners team is kind of a little bit more vulnerable, I think, than earlier on the season. So,
I'm gonna go Jacksonville on this one. We can move on.
Oh, all right. This should be a good one too. The 5-3 Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know obviously that the Browns obviously, people could say with Deshaun Watson this, Deshaun Watson that, but they've been able to kind of ever since the Nick Chubb injury, right? Which I kind of felt like forever ago, and hopefully he's continuing his process because obviously love Nick Chubb, but he was such a focal point to that offense, and I think a lot of people were worried. Well, this Browns team's going to fall off. The quarterback situation there, but they've been kind of able to keep the pieces and kind of find something there, right? Their defense obviously been really good this year. Kevin Stefanski's done a pretty good job kind of being able to sustain and tread water in a way. But now they're going to take on the Ravens, a team that, it's in division, so they're obviously fairly close games, right? But this Ravens team's been scoring out well, and they've been scoring really well via the running game. Gus Edwards has been absolutely killing it right now in the running game. They've been using Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. I think the Ravens will win here, James, in a double-score game. Give me 30-14. I think that just the Ravens are playing at an all-time high level right now. And despite the Browns having a very good defense, I think that they're going to have a really hard time to sustain offensive drives, which will have their defense really tired throughout the game. And you don't want to see that against a Ravens type team that is effectively very good with the run. So I'm going to be the Ravens.
You mentioned left tackle and how important it is, and then when the one that's out there is not the main one, you can really get exposed. And unfortunately for the Cleveland Browns, even though they won 27-0 over the Cardinals, they did lose their left tackle.
Quills, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a huge loss. And basically,
Massive.
you put everybody on that on that left side and just run in there. You could blitz, get some safety blitzes going. It just looks like they frustrated Geno Smith, did the Baltimore defense, and I think this is going to happen with Cleveland. All you have to do is shut down Amari Cooper. That's all you have to do. He had a big game, but that was only because of against Arizona. But as long as you shut him down and then do what you continue to do, where you run the ball well, you pass the ball well, Lamar Jackson back on his MVP bag, I'm going to go with the Ravens as well. Even though, these two have Ravens have a better record, but I do want to see a competitive game. Myles Garrett, he's going to do whatever he can to keep the game close, but eventually I think it'll get away from Cleveland. I'm going Baltimore.
All right. Next game. So now we're going into our 4:00 slate games. The 4-5 Atlanta Falcons, who obviously blew that game against the Vikings a couple days ago, take on the Cardinals. Now the Cardinals, James, get Kyler Murray back. Welcome back, Kyler. It feels like forever. And I know obviously you're, with the side, James, but Kyler Murray, right? It's obviously great to see him probably playing again. I know, of course, the stuff off the field, him doing the gaming crap and all that. I get that for sure. But, probably for the Cardinal fans, right? This is a better option than what they're having right now. Clayton Tune, even Joshua Dobbs early on. Kyler Murray, I feel like can at least present something. And think about it too, James, right? The fact that Kyler Murray could play at least half a season with them, right? Despite the fact they're not going anywhere, that the Cardinals could be trading potentially for a quarterback, or they could be in for a quarterback this offseason. And which means that if Kyler Murray can play like half a season at least, maybe it could present some trade value to a team that might be in need of a quarterback this offseason, be in the trade market, right? So, you at least have to see the guy actually play some football, for that to kind of see it happen with some trade value to make things, happen or whatever. So I'm going to go with upset here. I'm going to go with the Cardinals, right? I feel like they're going to get their second win of the season. The fact that Kyler's coming back and, the Falcons are 1.5 favorite, but I'm going to go Cardinals here. The Falcons beat John Robinson. I just feel like hasn't been kind of getting himself involved as of late. Jonnu Smith's been playing pretty well with them. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. I think that they find a way with Kyler back. So how about you?
Yeah, Kyler Murray, first start in 11 months, if all things go well from what I'm reading. It's funny. He could hurt the draft pick if
Yeah,
if they
that's
if
why I
they
also
have
love
the
it too.
upset win.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so that's funny to think if he really wants to stay and show like you mentioned. Well, if he defeats the Falcons, he could do that and say, "No, you're paying me too much. I'm gonna be here, and you're stuck with me." Man, yeah, the Falcons they gotta use everybody they have. I mean, you drafted Bijan Robinson. You're stuck with him. You got to use him, and it was just clueless the way that they didn't use him in Tampa. Uh, that just didn't make any sense. I'm gonna go with the Falcons, but if they lose this and Kyler Murray wins, I'm never picking
Mhm.
Atlanta again. You know what? And two, I want Kyler Murray. You said you wanted to see him play football. I want to see him play baseball.
That would be cool. Kind of like Russell Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Russell Wilson was
I'm sure
used to
the
play baseball
Bronco
back in the
fans
day.
out there want to see Wilson play baseball than football right now,
Oh, definitely, for sure.
since last year.
All right, this should be a fairly interesting matchup. We got the 62 Detroit Lions taking on the 4-4 Chargers. Now, the Lions are in a 2.5 favorite. The Lions are coming off of the win Monday night against the Raiders. The Chargers are coming off of that one against the Jets. Now, the Chargers the last couple weeks, James, I don't know if it's just me, but Justin Herbert been very inconsistent right with that Chargers offense. Austin Eckler obviously has been there, but you know the loss of Mike Williams, I feel like, has been really killing them. It's been really hurting them for sure. That second tier receiver, I know that Joshua Palmer's been around there. Keenan Allen obviously has been doing great for them. That Chargers defense, I think, has been fairly decent. I mean, you look what they did against the Jets, but the Jets offense is just a mess right now. It's hard to kind of gauge this game right now because, um, playing in LA is obviously fairly tough, but I don't know. I like the Lions right now. In terms of kind of what they are standard wise, that team. Uh, the Chargers has been very inconsistent. Give me the Lions, James, and that's what I'm going to go with them. I'm going to go with the coaching advantage. Give me Dan Campbell over Brandon Staley any day of the week, especially if the game is tight later on in the game. I'm going to go with the Lions here for them to go to 7-2. So who do you have?
I'm hoping David Montgomery will come back and play. I know he was out with an injury, but hopefully the bye week healed him up. I'm seeing the Lions are slight road favorites, and I'm hoping they're whatever Lion fans showed up in Tampa, and I forget where else they had a road game where all the fans showed up. Green Bay. Yeah, Green Bay.
Bay.
Those first games. Yeah, I'm hoping they show up in LA, because that'd be cool. Because the road fans usually take over the LA games. So, and it doesn't really matter who the opponent is. It's funny how it works, but you'll see more road fans than home fans in LA. So I'm hoping they kind of play off that. Jared Goff, playing in that stadium again, that would be kind of awkward. He played there in 2020 without fans, but for him to go back to that place, maybe there's a little motivation, I should say, even though it's against the Chargers. Yeah, Palmer isn't back. That's trouble for the Chargers. But man, the way that the Chargers won yesterday, that gives them a little momentum, and I'm afraid of that. If the Raiders weren't playing a Sunday night, I would have gone to this game and wore Hawaii blue for the Lions. So I know a few Lion fans who are going. I'm like, no, I'll hold back. But I'm going to go Detroit, but man, it's going to be a really close, entertaining game. I think both quarterbacks are really, really good. They really air it out. So
Yep.
I'm going to go Detroit, though.
All right. This game feels like probably the most lopsided game of the weekend. We have the 2-7 Giants taking on the 5-3 Cowboys. The Giants obviously have been a massive mess this year. Daniel Jones unfortunately got hurt. He's out for the season 2 of a torn ACL. Tyrod Taylor is currently still on IR, short-term IR. So Tommy DeVito right now, of course, a young kid thrown into the fire. Right now, James, the Cowboys are in a 16.5 point favorite. So they're
Yeah.
basically giving the Giants no chance to win, and deservedly so. Cowboys obviously are on a rampage right now offensively. Even against the Eagles, they put up 23 points. That should be enough to beat this Giants team this weekend. I don't think that the Giants will score more than 10 points this all weekend.
Mm-mm.
So the Giants obviously are looking more at going higher in the draft board. The Cowboys are looking at themselves to rebound after the loss to Philly. Give me Dallas here. And a 2-point score, 27-14. How about you?
It was unfortunate the way that Daniel Jones had to leave the game. That was kind of like a movie scene where you're hurt and you try to play
Yeah.
again and you fall again.
Well,
That
that's the
really,
thing about that reminded me too about Aaron Rodgers, right? People are
yeah,
talking about, well,
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, right? He got hurt, right? And then, he was on crutches for couple weeks, and then there was reports out, he's been throwing the football on the field.
No.
He was he was not on crutches going in the MetLife yesterday. He even said after the game yesterday, Doran James asked him like when he coming back. He said a few more weeks or whatever, kind of. And he said the Pat McAfee show today that he didn't think that nobody's going to hear that or whatever. It's basically, you don't want to have him come back with that offensive line, like literally what they just did the other night against Zach Wilson, and to have him come back and do the exact same thing because you don't want it to linger, right? Even if you feel like he came back, just rest it out, right? And I don't think the Jets are going to be Super Bowl contenders by any chance this year because they just don't have a quarterback by all means to do it. But they still have a defense probably that can maybe win them a playoff game or two. So at least you kind of know that, rest yourselves, get ready for next year, and be fully healthy. And really big time news for Jet fans to hear that. So, yeah. But yeah, it just really sucks for Daniel Jones, but it's just that's the way it is, I guess.
One thing, I don't know why Aaron Rodgers would say that. He knows that, when everybody goes on the field after a game, there's microphones everywhere.
Right.
Someone's going to catch it. There's always a microphone in front of him. For
Shocking
this
from him,
game, I would hate if the Cowboys struggled in this game. That'd be awful. I know Fox mentioned, I think it was during the game or after the game of the week for Fox is Giants and Cowboys. I'm like, hell no, it's not.
Oh yeah, even if Daniel Jones did play, that would still be a rout.
No,
that offensive line for that Giants is just putrid. They're going to trade Saquon this offseason. I don't think that's pretty much going to be a shocker to many people. And Isaiah was telling me the other day that he wouldn't be surprised if Brian Dable potentially got fired. I know that
I hope not. It's not his fault.
I don't think it is because they're kind of like the Patriots right now. In terms of the way with the lock, they don't have the talent, right? They don't have a talented type team. But despite the fact is, it's bad, man. It's just really bad with them. But the fact that you're a 16.5-point favorite, especially with a lot of these lines that we've kind of seen all weekend, they're basically giving them little to no hope on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys easy.
Yeah. All right. The 4-5 Washington Commanders who just won in Foxborough. Man, I still can't believe that we lost that one. But that's kind of the way of our season. So I will say this though, James. Sam Howell, he's fairly impressive, right? A lot of people don't talk about him really this year. A lot of people kind of talk about the high end type, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and deservedly so. But this is a kid that, he has Terry McLaurin, he has Jahan Dotson, he has some guys around him. I just think they're a young team. And even after the game, I think on Sunday, Jonathan Allen said that he feels like Sam Howell is their future, right? Because the Commanders are trying to find their long-term quarterback, and it could be Howell. I mean, Howell, right now, James, I don't know if you know this, but Howell is number 2 in passing yards in the league this year. So there's something at least that he's doing well that not a lot of other people are seeing. And I mean, the Patriots defense on third down can absolutely shred it. The Commanders, I believe, at 8 to 9 first downs in that game. He's the most sack type quarterback, so there obviously is some deficiencies in terms of the way that he plays at times, but he throws a great ball. I mean, there's some really good things to see from Sam Howell that I really like from this year. They're going to take on the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks really just got their doors blown off last week against the Ravens, so they're probably going to be really pissed. Seattle's a 6.5-point favorite. I don't know, James. These are just kind of two teams that are like a lot of the other games that are on this weekend. They're just kind of, you just don't know, right? Seattle obviously plays pretty well at home, especially if they're coming out pissed off last week. The Commanders, they're just a team that doesn't really care if they win or lose. They're just kind of cared about their future. And I don't know. I'm going to go Seattle here. I think they're just going to be more the hungry type team. Washington, obviously, they beat us, but it came down to the end where they essentially could have won on multiple occasions. Their execution at the end was very poor. We were poorer, I guess you can say, in a way, to execute at the end there. So give me the Seahawks here.
I'm going to go Seattle as well. The only thing is, I could see some sideline dysfunction, maybe with the defense that they have. Like someone gets beat on a Samuel Howell long pass to, McLaurin or someone.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that happening with Seattle this week. It just feels like they were in first place for 1 week and they lost it, even with the Niners on a bye. But yeah, I think. What do you think when they're pissed off? Maybe they can get a game here, and then Washington. If they don't block well, Howell's going to be on his back. He won't be able to throw those passes like you mentioned, those well thrown passes. So I'm gonna go Seattle, but it's going to be a really close game. Maybe a game that both defenses make really, really tough on. And even though Washington traded their 2 edge rushers, they still played fairly well against New England. So, man, I'll go Seattle, but it's going to be a really close game.
Isaiah has a comment here. He said that the Jets' offense is so atrocious. Hackett should be fired. Wilson, I'm his biggest fan, but he needs to be benched. That was an embarrassing performance last night. They were down 17-3, and I turned it off because I knew they had no shot. Zach Wilson, Isaiah, I'm sorry to tell you, my friend, but he's had many embarrassing performances this year. So outside of that game the other night, it's been fairly ineffective for him. Of course, he's had his moments, but for him in terms of where he's been for his draft stock, it's awful. I mean, I think QBR-wise, he's one of the worst in football. So with that being said, speaking of the Jets, James, that's the team you guys are facing this weekend. The Jets are now on a 1-point favorite. It's Sunday Night Football, Jets, Raiders. I don't know how you feel about that, James, to be the Sunday Night Football game. Zach Wilson against Aiden O'Connell. I don't know how many people are going to have to watch that. But there's going to be a lot of the games kind of like that this weekend. Kind of just the way this schedule's been. And, look at the bye weeks, James. You have the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Eagles all on bye this week. So, I mean, that's
the best teams are out.
So fairly outside of the Rams, it's literally 3 of the 4 teams are the Chiefs, Dolphins, and Eagles. Like some of the high-powered teams just all on bye, right? So that's kind of the reason why we've had kind of going through all the schedule for this coming weekend. It's just very mid, very just So Jets and Raiders, James, this is just a game where, kind of very even teams, right? Nothing. Raiders obviously coming off that blowout against the Giants, right? You guys are taking on back-to-back New York teams. I don't know who put your schedule out, but you guys get to stay at home. Maybe smoke some more cigars if you guys want another one. So, gonna go with the Raiders. I think this is kind of a game where the Raiders find a way at the end. That defense, I think, is going to eat up Zach Wilson, like the Chargers did. So that's why. If it was Aaron Rodgers, I'd probably lean part of the Jets in this one. But Zach Wilson, James, I think you guys should be able to contain him at best. That defense that you guys have right now. Max Crosby's obviously putting up monster numbers this year. And Jacoby Myers, man, I'd love to have him. I don't know why the Patriots decided to get rid of him, with a lot of other stuff that they did this year. Because he is just putting up great stuff for you all. I'm really happy for him personally. And Josh Jacobs, James, he found the end zone a couple of times this past week, which I feel like was much needed because he was kind of struggling for a lot of this year. So, the Jets have a great defense, and it might be hard for you guys to move the football, but I think it's going to come down to the fact that the other team does not have Aaron Rodgers, their offense has just mightily been struggling to score points. So I think it's going to be more of a defensive battle, and it's in your place. Sunday Night Football. I'm going to go Vegas here. How about you?
It's convenient for New Yorkers to fly out to Vegas for a couple of weeks and have their teams play out there. And I did see there was a lot of Giant fans. There'd probably be a lot of Jets fans because they expected Aaron Rodgers to be playing. But it's interesting. I don't think we'll see Tim Boyle come into the game for the Jets. I'd be shocked only if Zach Wilson really, really struggles like he did Monday. I'm wondering if he'll come in. But, man, the Raiders, they really have to stop Breece Hall. Because Dalvin Cook, I don't know why they even signed him if they're not even going to use him. That's just ridiculous. I don't get that. And I praise that move, but he isn't getting anything for him. I wanted him to get traded out of, the Jets because I wanted him to get a better opportunity somewhere else.
I agree.
That just pissed me off, honestly. So as long as the Raiders, they get after Hall and they frustrate Zach Wilson, make him run out of the pocket, throw it away, I would love to see that. Whatever the Chargers did, the film will see, hey, do this to Zach Wilson. If you have to, stack up on the side for Breece Hall and get after him. For the Raiders, the Rejuvenate Raiders, or the Raiders Rejuvenated, man, it's been like a 180, honestly, since the firings happened and the new offensive coordinator. He works well with Aiden O'Connell and all the players. There's a certain trust now with the players and the coaches. And Antonio Pierce, I mean, you couldn't have a better intern coach. This dude, born a Raider fan, even when he was a Giant, he still had the Raider instincts. And he helped, of course, the Giants win a couple Super Bowls on defense. And that was really awesome to see. I mean, I really never knew that about Antonio Pierce, but he took the job, the linebackers coaching job, just because it was the Raiders. It wasn't really for McDaniels or the Patriot guys, but it was for just being a Raider. So I really love hearing those stories. Man, the offense just has to keep going. You could tell. I could tell this, Ben, when on Sunday with Josh Jacobs, there was more get up to his running. He was running more. He was running better. It wasn't just like, hey, 2 yards here, 1 yard here.
3 yards, yeah.
What he was averaging was like 3 or less a carry. Last year he was averaging 5. Well, he took it back to last year and the year before, running up the middle very well. Again, like you mentioned, scored 2 touchdowns. Adams has a good rapport with Aiden O'Connell, and then Jacoby Myers, the Raiders. He's lucky that they have him because he's been clutch. So, yeah, Max Crosby's doing historic things. I don't know if it's his best year. 21 was pretty good as well. But you could just tell the Raiders, the whole team, it's like having that manager or boss that everybody hates, and they don't work as hard or they don't want to be there. But once he's gone and the cool manager comes in or the cool boss comes in and says, hey, just do our work. We'll do it our way, and we'll have fun with it. We'll have pizza every Friday and all this crap. Instead of giving everybody raises, still have to give pizza Fridays. But we're gonna have fun. We're gonna do what we want to do. It's only after one game, but man, I feel rejuvenated. I know a lot of Raider fans across the country are gonna watch, and they're gonna feel rejuvenated. And man, I can't wait for like the song says, Carrie Underwood, waiting all day for Sunday night. Really, I am. I think the Rays are going to win, by the way, too. I forgot all about the pick.
So, James, you're feeling, obviously, that the Raiders, this might be the most positive feel that you talked about the Raiders, I feel, maybe all season, which is, I think, is awesome to see because I feel like there's many other Raider fans like you who are just like, get McDaniels out, it's enough, right? It's almost just like, did you hear about specifically, I was reading this too, is where when McDaniels got fired, he was going out trick-or-treating with his family. And
no way.
Yeah, he found out after he went trick or treating that they fired him. They got a call, and that's how we found out. So
Oh my
I
god.
ca- I kind of feel bad in a way because it's obviously that's kind of cruel, but yeah, after the way that Detroit game kind of went, it just was. I feel like they had to pull something because
Well,
something was just not right.
you heard the story about how Pierce stepped up in a players' meeting against the coaches. It was against McDaniels. Everybody was
Mm.
airing their grievances against McDaniels, and then Pierce was talking about how we could beat anybody, like those Giants did against the Patriots. And then McDaniels goes over to uh, Pierce, and he says, "Don't talk about my Patriots that way." I'm like, I can't believe he did that. It's like it just it goes to McDaniels. It just goes to his mannerisms, the way he is. That just spells out McDaniels. And there was a thing too where McDaniels came into the facility dressed like Mark Davis. The haircut, the white suit, and at first Davis wasn't as pissed, but as the day went, he realized he's making a mockery out of me. He's making a mockery out of the Raiders. So nothing against you, Ben, because this isn't Belichick. This isn't Brady. Mm-hmm. That was the true Patriot way. I've been meaning to talk to you about this, but yeah. This isn't like the Patriot way. That doesn't work everywhere. That coaching tree
it doesn't.
You can tell that coaching tree has done really bad. I mean, Bill O'Brien is the only one that's really had any success with Houston.
Yeah. Mike Vrabel a little bit with Tennessee, but
and that's probably the other one.
Yeah,
but everybody else has really failed everywhere they went to without Belichick.
They just do better in non-head coaching situations. Yeah. They still bring something I feel to the table, but just not a specific position like head coaching where they're pressured to try to bring what they brought from the New England days, which I think is fun because it's a very hard system, as a lot of Patriot people know. Mm-hmm. So, all right, so now we'll go into the last game before we kind of finish up with their football stuff. The Broncos. Now, I know that Isaiah's not here to talk about the Broncos, but they're 3-5. They beat the Chiefs in Denver. They're taking on the Bills. And the Bills, James, are 5-4. Right now, if the playoffs ended today, the Bills will not be in it. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, it's just I don't know if it's their offensive coaching. I feel like Josh Allen's missing Brian Daboll badly. Mm-hmm. You saw the report there. They felt like you're just clicking. And now, James, I don't know. I've been thinking about this with this Bills team is that they obviously they're missing Matt Milano big time, right? Their defense is really getting eaten up. Tre'Davious White, right? They're just getting eaten alive in that middle part of that field. Via the pass, via the run. And, Josh Allen he's had a fairly decent year, but he's also had his moments where, he hasn't been the same Josh Allen we've been used to. He's been very careless at times, turn the ball over. He feels like he's always like a Superman type quarterback where he can go out and roll out and try to feel like he has to be the perfect type guy to do everything. But there's times where you kind of have to be a little bit under pressure in a way to kind of just take what you can give, throw to some guys. Apparently, Stephon Diggs had some frustration after the first half on Sunday. So I don't know. There's just kind of something there, James, with that Bills team where it's just like, their championship window, James, I will say this, is really kind of starting to close out a little bit. Sean McDermott is obviously coaching their defense. Of course, a lot of Bills fans online have been very critical of McDermott and Ken Dorsey, a lot of that, a lot of people like that. But I don't know. They're at home. They're taking on Denver. Remember Denver a lot? It was on primetime last year, and it was just a bad watch by them every single time. First couple times they put on Denver, right? I'll be like, what are we doing here? And then people be like, all right, that's it for Denver to be on primetime, right? And it'll be a couple weeks later, oh, yeah, they have the Broncos on again. Man, it would be crazy if the Broncos put an upset in Orchard Park, but it's a West Coast team, like I mentioned, for a lot of these teams, West Coast to East. And I'm going to go the Bills here, and it's going to be close. This Bills team has not shown to me that they can go out and blow people out. I know that they blow your Raiders games around the season, but it hasn't been like last year where it's like, oh, this Bills team, they just feel like they're really unstoppable. They're not, because their defense just has a lot of flashes. Their late game situation still, I think, is very rocky. I think they'll find a way to win, but it's going to be like a 27-16 type of game. What do you think?
Yeah, hopefully Denver flies out like on Saturday. I know the game's on Monday night. Hopefully they fly out there and they get some practice in. The thing about Denver, this year or right now at least, they're not as bad as last year. I mean, they beat Green Bay, as you know, but they're playing everybody pretty tough, other from Miami. But man, the way, man, I'm trying to figure out, is all of it on Ken Dorsey? The plays that he's drawn up, is it not just working? Has the league kind of figured out Josh Allen and what he can do and what he doesn't do, and they really go after him? Maybe that's the case. Maybe the Bills aren't as, because they're banged up on defense and not stopping as many scores. It may be just a combination of both of those issues for the Bills right now. Now, I think they're going to win this game, but man, hopefully it's going to be a really, really close one. The Broncos won't just peter out, in the third quarter. Hopefully that won't be the case. But look for Von Miller against his old team to have a really big game. I think that would be awesome to see. He really hasn't had a standout game that I can recall, so maybe this will be the one for Von Miller. So I know he's looking forward to that. But man, the pressure is on Ken Dorsey because everybody was talking about him and Josh Allen. Oh God, everything I was hearing on Monday. I wake up in the morning and I hear about Josh Allen this, and he's not elite anymore, and he's not this, he's not that. Well, maybe it comes down to Ken Dorsey, and then maybe it's the head coach.
It's the play call, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it really is. So I'm gonna go with the Bills, but maybe they make it really close, and hopefully the Broncos stay in this game.
All right, so I was going to get into some more NFL stuff, a couple more things, but I think we'll probably save it for next show, which is probably going to be later on in the week. So let's go to some NBA stuff really quick, Jane, because I do want to get into a lot of baseball with you to kind of conclude for tonight's show. And I know Isaiah and I talked about stuff actually last show, which I don't think you were on, so for some trade predictions and some free agent stock, which will be a lot of fun with you. Isaiah did also comment Broncos upset Buffalo. And Isaiah, as much as we don't want to clown you or just think there's no chance,
Maybe.
anything's possible. And the Broncos, obviously, I want to lie, I kind of laughed when you predicted them to beat the Chiefs, and they did it. So, this is not a dominant Buffalo team like past years. They're just not. There's something just very off with them. But I do think that the Buffalo Bills just are a better team on paper. They're in their own stadium, so it's just really hard to pick against them. Let's get into quickly some NBA stuff, James. I don't know if I got the chance to really talk about the NBA last episode with you, but what's been your overall thoughts so far on the season? I know it's obviously, a couple weeks. You guys did pick up James Harden. So I know that obviously he played his debut on Monday. So I didn't get the chance to really watch James Harden against the Knicks on Monday, but man, in terms of my Celtics, I'll just start with our team reports, I guess, in a way. The Celtics they're 6-1. They are still first in the Eastern Conference. They're actually tied with the Sixers. The Sixers actually are playing fairly decent basketball. They lost Harden, obviously, but guys,
that was good for them, though.
But it's good, yeah. Tyrese Maxey has played fairly well with them. Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, some pieces they got back for Harden. I think that this Celtics team, they just lost to Minnesota yesterday. The T-Wolves, they've been one of the most surprising stories so far. Shout out to Stephen Wayne and his team. I congratulated him off the air last night. They have a very good defense so far. I don't know if that team's going to be a great team for the remainder of the year, but they've at least shown to me so far that their defense has been very, very tough right now. Kristaps Porzingis, James, has really helped their offense a lot. The spacing. Derek White's been out for last couple games because of personal reasons, but he is scheduled to come back tomorrow against the Sixers. And then we have our first what they call it in tournament game on Friday. I don't know what I'm trying to remember. In-season tournament.
In-season tournament.
Yeah, that's it. I still can't believe it. We're still doing this, but hey, it's obviously they're doing it for ratings or whatever. They're trying to do something out of it. And by the way, James, do you happen to see the courts that they put up for all these teams? I had to ask you. I told Isaiah this. I think I did. That Bulls court the other night I think it was on Friday. It was this dark red, right? And it had the jerseys already with red. It just felt like that Jolly Rancher, right? That's just really red.
Yeah.
It just I don't know. It's just some of the courts are sick, and then there's just some that are just I don't know. It's just but I'm kind of going along with it, and the Celtics had their first game Friday against the Bucks on ESPN. I don't know. This Celtics team is going to be a great team, I feel like, for the remainder of the season. Just hopefully that they can bring it home this year. They just have everything ready for them. I am a little bit worried about their bench. So far, at least around the season, they don't have a lot of depth on their bench right now. But hopefully maybe they get some help there. And it sucks with Robert Williams. I know that a lot of people were talking about Robert Williams coming back, but he had an injury that could be lingering for him for a couple months as he got hurt the other night. So obviously sucks for Rob. Hopefully he's going to be healthy when he comes back. But, that's kind of the team report, at least for me so far, James. 5-1 Celtics. Like I said, early on, stat-wise right now, they're second in points per game. They're fifth in free throw percentage. They are 11th in three-point percentage, but they're number one in rebounds. Obviously you take away Robert Williams, and they still have Al Horford. Kristaps Porzingis is obviously there, so their rebounds are still doing okay. And Jason Tatum is obviously matured and for another year grown into a player that we're accustomed to seeing. So far, to go with my Celtics. In terms of your Clippers, James, I'll go to you. Of course, your overall thoughts on that Harden move. It doesn't sound like you're very pleased about, but I'll ask you. And your Clippers are now 3-3. So obviously kind of an up and down so far with the team. Their first two November games, they have lost. One to the Lakers, which I thought that was a great entertaining game. Then they lost against the Knicks. So I'll take it away for you, James. Just your overall thoughts on your Clippers so far. And then my other question for you is your thoughts on this in-season tournament.
Well, I'm looking at the in-season tournament. I wish it was. They play the Mavericks first, do the Clippers in Dallas. That'll be, I want to say, Friday coming up here. Yeah, some of the courts are a little hard to look at, and then some of them are okay, but it's been interesting because it's kind of a glimpse into the future of what the NBA might look like, especially the uniforms and then the courts. It might look like that somewhat, but what's funny though, you have players literally not knowing what the hell's going on, like Damian Lillard mentioned after that Friday win over the New York Knicks. And that was their in-season tournament first game. So it's weird because everybody's trying to figure out, okay, which of these games are in season? And it's not every game right now. It's just one here, here, and one here for group play. And then eventually we'll get to the games that meet the single elimination ones and go from there. But it's just part of the regular season. So that's really, really confusing if you're just, getting into it and trying to figure out what's going on. And then for these players too, it's just like, well, we're kind of playing the regular season. These games kind of matter. We don't know which ones really matter. We don't know which ones to sit out from. So we'll just go along with it. So that's what I think about the in-season tournament. I think once the games get closer to the actual single elimination ones, then we'll have a sense of like, okay, tonight we have to win in order to move on to wherever we have to go to get to Vegas. Mm-hmm. So it's very confusing for now. But I think as we go along, I think everything will eventually be understanding. That's what I think. about this in-season tournament. I don't think it's helped ratings too much. I mean, I only watched those 2 games because they were at my brother's house on Friday. I think the Nuggets were on their way to beating Dallas, and I think they did. But it's always fun watching Jokic and Murray and the other players in Denver. And then that whole thing with Dallas, man. All year long, just like last year, the end of last year was like, hey, who's going to want the ball at the end of the game? Will it be Kyrie waving off Luka, or will it be vice versa, waving off him, say, oh, no, we're not going to run this play. No. I'm going to do it myself. That's going to be tough. Yeah, for the Clippers, I think, man, the Harden trade first. I liked it in a sense because they're going for it now. They're going for it this year. And you're getting rid of players that are either not playing like Covington. They brought him back for no reason. I mean, he was third string last year, and they signed him for a 3-year or 2-year deal. They signed him back last year, before last year. And they didn't even play him too much. He was stuck on the bench. They had too many small forwards. Marcus Morris Sr., Kawhi, Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum. And now all of them are gone except Kawhi. So everybody pretty much knows their role. Then you bring in James Harden, and he stops ball movement. So that really sucks because I really want the ball to be moving. And now you have, 4 individuals that are ball dominant.
Yes.
So this is going to be really, really tough. I mean, Westbrook wants to run. Harden wants to slow things and ISO and dribble, like Chuck would say. Kawhi wants, ISO. Paul wants ISO.
It's too many cooks. And that's really the definition of too many cooks. And part of me, James, thinks this maybe they go to bring Westbrook on the bench. Maybe somebody's going to have to sacrifice to be a bench guy because, yes, you could probably play with 3 bigs. It's already tough enough to play already with 2. But to play with 3, I think maybe one of the guys has to sacrifice to be off the bench because maybe that kind of helps out. It's a win-win in some way. Remember Russell Westbrook last year, James, for your Clippers, is he had to go on the bench. And I think that he actually kind of benefited for that for a little while because he was struggling. He was struggling for a long period of time, obviously with the Lakers. And then he got moved on. He went to the Clippers. And I personally think that he's played pretty well with you guys. I feel like he's kind of found himself there.
Yeah, he has.
But now if you have James Harden there and now you have 4 ball dominant guys, I mean, that just feels like a recipe for disaster.
That's what I was worried about, Ben.
Because ball movement, I mean, look at with the Celtics right now. Kristaps Porzingis, they brought in a guy in, but they brought in a guy in to help the spacing. And you just see specifically, it's just been so refreshing to see the ball movement kind of going with Drew Holiday, Kristaps, JT, JB, and kind of with their Clippers, James, it just feels kind of like, it's an NFL type team where you have a lot of couple guys that are on the outside trying to get the ball, to them specifically on like a route or something, right? But it's the same with basketball, too many cooks in the kitchen. I'd be curious to see maybe if they maybe put somebody on the bench. And I want to count Westbrook because I think maybe as time goes on, they kind of start to realize that. I don't know if you feel like differently about that. But.
Yeah, I do. I think Harden should, like I mentioned, if the Clippers have him, he should be. He got what he wanted, but he should adapt to what the team wants him to do for the best results. So I want him on the bench, and you bring in Man. I think that really helps. And then you have Zubac, who's the center. It's funny because they're going kind of big in a way at positions, and then you have Zubac. They're going small, I mean, with Paul George and Kawhi. Those are the forwards. When those are, there's no power forward there. They're basically small forwards. And then you have Harden as a shooting guard, Russell at the point, but he shoots as well. So it's very awkward. Mason Plumlee did get hurt, though. He was carried off the court. He had a collision with Julius Randle. He'll probably be out maybe a week or so or a little more. I think that was a sprained knee ligament, so that could be really unfortunate. He's one of those guys that come off the bench, gets the clutch rebounds, blocks shots, moves the ball around. So that's going to be really unfortunate. That means more stress on Zubac, so that's what he's going to get in foul trouble. For the Clippers right now, it was unfortunate too. That game last Wednesday against the Lakers, they had an 18-point lead. I started watching the game, and that's when things went off the rail. The fourth quarter was really bad. The overtime was really bad too. That's when you needed Harden, I think. Yeah, it's going to be a wait and see. Again, they're 3-3. Tomorrow they have Brooklyn. They lost to the Knicks last night.
Yeah, they've been a tough team.
Knicks are okay. They play tough, but they shoot the most threes, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, they're really good.
They let it fly. It's funny to see the Knicks be that type of team, although they still have their toughness. That's really good to see for Thibodeau. For the Clippers, though, man, you just want to groove in Harden, knowing that, hey, this is the year. And the bad thing, and Isaiah sent this to me right away. The Harden press conference, he's like, I'm a system.
Yep, I was going to tell you that too.
Should revolve around me. The offense should revolve around me, and if I have to, I'll ask somebody here how this can happen in this system that is me. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yep.
He's already starting it up. There's no way this is going to work. That's all I could think of. So he'll probably bring down the team. Yeah, it feels like that. It feels like he's going to bring down the team that underachieve. And it's only just beginning, though. So that's my thought on the Clippers. The in-season tournament, like I mentioned, I think we'll get through it and we'll get used to it.
All right. One more thing, James, before we get into baseball is let's talk about quickly with Victor Wembanyama and kind of what he's really been pretty much blossoming into this overall player that could be a once-in-a-lifetime type player when it's all said and done. He's just much watched NBA right now. I mean, he's playing on ESPN tomorrow.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's playing. They're playing. He's on ESPN because is his first game at MSG. So they're playing against the Knicks. The Spurs are actually been a pretty good story so far. I know, like I said, it's obviously early. Now, Wembanyama probably had his worst game last game against the Pacers. He went 3 for 12, 2 of 5 for 3 with only 13 points. But what he could do, James, is just, I know it's early, it's just incredible. He could shoot the three, he could post up, he can block shots, he can do fadeaways from the mid part of the court. I mean, you pretty much, Kevin Durant had high volumes with the guy the other day when he broke out, I believe, for like 40 points. I mean, he's a future guy that I think a lot of people are going to love. And the thing about him too is he just feels like he's very humble. He goes out and you see a lot of these guys that are star players. You go out there cocky about it, which I can understand, but the ones that are humble make it even more special because they know for a fact that they could get themselves even better and better. And that's a young kid that has all that talent. You just hope that he stays healthy, right? Because all it takes is just one little type of thing to maybe wreck something maybe in his career. And I just hope specifically he just stays healthy because he has a massive bright future. I really like the way that kid is, and he's amazing. He's amazing to watch. So,
you know what, Ben? You mentioned something, how he's humble already. And I wanted to get this out before I forget my thought. Does it seem like the international players come in with better traits than the American players? And is that a thing where, hey, it's the AAU way where everything is given to you right away and everything is expected right away for you to be this and that and be cocky and all that? But you've seen this with Giannis, and you see it with Luka a little bit. He's a little American, but with Giannis, with Jokic, and now with Wemby, it's like, hey, I'm here in the U.S. now. I have to be really good, and I have to be really humble about it too, I can be brash, but I can show it less than these American players. I'm really starting to like the European players way more than the American players. And I never thought I would say that. But I think they finally have taken me over where it's like, hey, I'd rather go for them, the guys that I mentioned, than, the James Hardens and the LeBrons of the league and whoever you want to put out there. I'd rather go for them because they're coming to America and, they've watched the NBA, but they never played it. Remember, Wemby had a thing where it's like, hey, the first 3 games of my career, it's so much faster. It's right in your face, and I wasn't prepared for it. And then he got prepared for it against the Suns. They split with Phoenix somehow. That was a great last Tuesday night. That was a great game they had against in Phoenix against the Suns, and I thought they were going to get swept in that 1 day off, one game on series. So that's really cool to see. I like that too, where they play in one team will play in one city 2 games and they're done with
I like it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So with Wemby, all the things you mentioned, he blocks all these shots you'd never think would get blocked from behind. No one wants to face him, although he did get blocked. I think Indiana Pacer got him, but he's he's not afraid. Yeah, he's not afraid though. He'll come right back at you. He'll pull up. Like someone will see him trailing, and they'll kick it out to him, and he'll make a 3. I was watching again that series against the Suns, mini series against Phoenix, and that game he had was amazing. Where again he had no fear. He was making everything.
And he can handle the ball really well too. That's another thing too. That I think that it's on top of kind of like what he can do with his straights and being humble. He can shoot the ball, but you don't see many guys that are 7 foot that could be able to just dribble the ball and just have crazy handles and to be consistent with it. I mean, it's just, what do you do? And this is just a kid that's just getting started too, James. I mean, if he could just bulk up maybe a little bit more, that's maybe the one thing that I maybe can give him a little criticism for. But what if he could start to bulk up a little bit? I mean, good God. I mean, this could be another type of Shaq, like a better version of Shaq in a way.
Yeah, the thing is, it would be a Shaq to nowadays where there's a 3-pointer involved. There's mid-range. It's more athletic. It's like whatever Giannis is doing, he's going to do, but hopefully he builds himself up like Giannis did. Because I had all these people that think they know basketball or whatever be like, he's not going to last 2 years because of his body. Well, eventually he's going to do what we said, where, hey, he's going to bulk up. He's going to get even more physical and smarter. He's not going to be crazy like John, try to dunk over everybody. He's just going to be himself, hopefully. And the thing with the Spurs, too, is like, hey, we're not expecting much out of them. They're 3-4. I mean, Vessel is a nice piece they have. Johnson. They're still a year or 2 away from really being anything.
I would say even years specifically.
Yeah. But, no, there's no doubt about that. I'm just hoping the best for him, but I'm loving watching the highlights. And I'm happy you told me that tomorrow because I'm coming home around 4 or 5 o'clock. I'll hopefully be watching that.
Yeah, me too. I'll be coming home 5 o'clock my time, and the game will be at 7. So hopefully I'll get the chance to watch some of it. But the Celtics Sixers game will be on, and I'll definitely be tuning in around that. That'll be kind of around that time as well too. So good night of hoops tomorrow, and also UConn women starts tomorrow night for me too. So college basketball kicked off this week as well. So a lot, of course, is going on, and more stuff that's going on, James. And we'll now go into our last segment of the night, which I think could be our most fun and most epic part of the show, is baseball. And of course, James, like I mentioned off the air before you came on, free agency officially has opened up this week, which means that teams can go now negotiate with other teams, free agency specifically, some other teams of contracts where they want to go to, right? So I think that this, of course, is just a very crucial part in time. GM meetings are this week too. We're seeing a lot of GMs obviously talking to the media. You saw Brian Cashman today. You saw
Oh
Craig
God.
Breslow. And of course, there's some news rumbling about potentially a dream come true with your Angels, James, as Ron Washington is
Yes.
getting interviewed potentially right now as we speak. So a lot of stuff specifically. And before we get into some free agency predictions, James, I'll be very curious to see about your predictions and some trade predictions that we have tonight. Is the managers that went down that got hired. Some really crazy things that transpired this week already. Craig Counsell, of course, was a hot commodity name that I think many people thought he was going probably to the Mets or maybe going back to the Brewers. He pulls none of that, and he decides to not only move on from the Brewers, but he decides to go in division and go to the Cubs. And I know David Ross obviously was there. He was managing for a while, and I thought he obviously had his moments where it wasn't going great or whatever, but I didn't think it was going to take for the Cubs to do that. But man, this is a home run hire for the Cubs. I mean, Craig Counsell, yeah, he hasn't really won a lot, but he is a very consistent type coach. I mean, I feel like with him at the Brewers, he was always kind of in that playoff mix every year. The Cubs, I feel like right now they can have some pieces to kind of make a run to the playoffs. I mean, remember last year, James, they were not too far away from kind of getting themselves into that wild card.
Yeah.
So this is a home run hire for this Cubs team, and I wanted to obviously get your overall reactions on this.
I thought it was a reach. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because I thought the Mets were gonna get him because of David Stearns and his relationship with Counsell. Man, it's definitely a reach, and then how much they paid for him, that's ridiculous. He makes more than Albies does right now with the Braves, the player. So that's amazing to think of what his contract is going to be, the highest paid ever. That just brings up the market for those big market teams. That means someone else is going to have to pay a lot for their manager, depending on who it is, of course. So I was shocked, but more I'm thinking like how he'll mesh with the Cubs players, because it seemed like David Ross, he was really liked by the players, but loved from the fans of the Cubs because he was part of that 2016 championship team. So that was shocking as hell, and I think he rubbed a lot of people wrong. I know the owner or the president of the Brewers came out and said, Craig Counsell lost us. He didn't lose us. Or what was it? He lost us. We didn't lose him. Basically throwing shade on the move by Counsell. That's what San Diego did when the Chargers left. It was like we didn't lose the Chargers. They lost us. And that's what it sounded like with Milwaukee and Craig Counsell. So man, it's a reach. I don't know what else they'll do in free agency. We'll get to that, but man, it's a lot for someone that doesn't have the playoff winning percentage that you want. So it's a reach, and they better get it right.
So yeah, Counsell goes now, pulls the 180, I guess you can say, because a lot of people didn't expect the Brewers to move on from Counsell in the first place, obviously, to the Cubs out of all places. That was really shocking. Now Carlos Mendoza. Now the Mets obviously are trying to find a manager, which of course they struck out on Counsell, so they got Carlos Mendoza. Now Mendoza, James, he was on the Yankees squad, so of course that there is some familiarity. At least he's still in the New York market, and I think that he's a lot younger. I think that the Mets team, maybe they obviously had an older guy last year, Buck Showalter. They're kind of going in the younger route this year. Of course, David Stearns is their new general GM, so they're going pretty much full overhaul in terms of just with Steve Cohen, kind of that new overall team over there in Queens. I think it's a good one for the good hire there for the Mets. I know, of course, that there's a lot of people that have now kind of compared it to the New York's Yankees of Aaron Boone. Probably because Mendoza was on the Yankees specifically, but he's played in baseball. He's Venezuelan. He was a baseball coach. I think that I don't know. I think there's a lot of Yankees that have really been high on him. In terms of guys like Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman. There's a lot of praise from those guys. So I think it's a good move for the Mets. It's probably not the one they were expecting, but I think that at least it's a solid one to at least kind of get them started maybe for a couple of years and then maybe trying to find another guy. So what do you think?
Yeah, this move was pretty much out of nowhere, but it's good because it's someone that that's been around the game for a while, at least in the minors. He was brought up, I think, in 2017 to the actual Yankees, and in 19 as a bench coach for New York. So that was really good. To see for him. I think the Mets wanted to go with a not a big name after Counsell. I think they just went for someone you just wanted to hire, but not someone that will come with baggage. That's all I could think this move was. It was a plan B move. That's what I think it was. But I think it's the best move because if it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt you as much as as others would. Let's just say. So I'm really happy for Mendoza. I'm happy for the Mets because they did not seemingly strike out on this move. So I think this was a really, really good move. I really do. I don't know if it'll work out because they have a long way to go trying to get this team going. The better way. But again, this is a no thrills move. So I really like that move.
Here comes the fun part now of the show, James. As I've mentioned to you off the air, we are now going to show the free agency list to you all that are going to be joining. If you can try to get it on, no worries. But of course, this is the fun part of the offseason. Free agency, we're going to do some of our predictions of some guys, where they're going to go, even contracts if we have to. We probably won't do much of contracts. And then predictions on some of the guys in the trade route. So I did have a list from the other show I did with Isaiah in terms of some guys, James, and kind of the key guys, right? There was some other guys that I probably forgot specifically that were on a trade block that prediction wise. And I don't remember in terms of all the moves, that I had specifically for each guy. I'll try to remember some of them, but at least we'll kind of at least get started now. Let's start first of all, of course, with Shohei Ohtani, right? Of course, this is the move that, of course, many baseball fans out there want to see. Of course, I know yourself as an Angel fan, probably is a little bit, salty. I wouldn't say salty, but it's kind of coming to the end, right? You just kind of have to realize that it's for the Angels that you're not going to have the greatest player of all time now for the foreseeable future, but hopefully that he's going to be able to find himself into another successful type of place. So, James, without further ado, let's each kind of predict where Shohei Ohtani is going. And for me, I have him going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think that he's going to stay on the West Coast. He's going to go from the other one LA team to the other. I just think that money-wise, with that Dodgers team, that they're going to be able to spend with Andrew Freeman. Of course, there's a lot of other suitors going to be out there for his services. Let's see if we can.
I shared the screen with you, the MLB free agents.
All right. So as this is loading up here, I have the Dodgers, James, as my landing spot. It's pretty much the most favorite landing spot, at least from the reports out this week. But I think pretty much once Otani gets signed from wherever he's going to get signed to, that's really when the market's going to start to kind of follow the dominoes effect. Because I think this last couple of days, at least, we're kind of starting to see some rumblings, right? But I think really once Otani signs somewhere, then it's off to the races. So who do you have? We're out for Otani. Where do you have this for his spot?
Yeah, for Shohei, and for some reason, and Isaiah was the first one to tell me this, but it was like, oh, so all of a sudden Texas is in the running for Shohei because they won the World Series and because they almost got him in 2018. So somehow they're in the running. The Giants are as well as the Dodgers. Not really Seattle anymore. I have the same thing as you. I think the Dodgers will win the Otani sweepstakes. Again, he will not be able to pitch next season, but he'll be ready to go for 25 and beyond. Now, how long that is, I don't know. So it's really, if you sign him, let's say for 10 years, $550 million, it's a real risk because he could have another elbow injury or arm injury, and then he can't, ever pitch again. So it's really unfortunate if someone signs him and, guess what? A couple of years in, you kind of regret it. Luckily there's a DH in both leagues. That's why this move to the Dodgers wouldn't be surprising. So I'm gonna say LA for Shohei.
So we do have some of the list here of some of the guys right here, right? Obviously Shohei Ohtani at the top. In terms of my list overall, there might be some of these names specifically that a lot of these kind of guys right here, James, are kind of more in the middle tier to the bottom tier, right? So we'll obviously keep this list here. Of course, I don't know if we'll get into all these guys here on the list, but let's go to Blake Snell. Blake Snell, of course, put up a pretty good year last year with the Padres, right? I know that his walk rate was a little concerning last year, but I remember on the last show I had, I think with Isaiah, I think Snell, feels to me like he could go to a couple places. I think Baltimore would be a great spot, but it feels like Michael Elias doesn't want to go for a top tier type of arm. So, man, part of me feels like he's going to go to the Phillies. I think that the Phillies are going to need some top end arms specifically because I do have Nola moving on. So I think in this case, I think that Blake Snell stays in the National League and he goes to Philadelphia. And I think that he still helps out with that Phillies rotation. Him and Zach Wheeler at the top, I think, would still be fairly solid. But there's going to be a lot of teams out there for Blake Snell's services. Who do you have for Snell?
Oh, well, there's three options, I think, and I don't think the Padres are one of them. Either be Baltimore, Philadelphia, or the Red Sox. I could really see him in Boston. I really can.
A lot of people are talking about it. Pitch in the LEs.
Yeah, that just came up too. I don't think I don't know if the Orioles would.
I don't think so.
Just depends who throws the most money at them, basically. And the Orioles, I think, have some. I'm gonna go. Damn, I don't think he'll fare well in Philadelphia, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Red Sox.
All right. Let's go. I think your signal kind of came out here, so let's keep it on just the two screen list for now. Let's see. Okay. All right. Next one. I'll just kind of go through. I know you obviously kind of showed the list a little bit earlier, but I think that the signal is probably a little bit better without the screen right now. Let's go into Aaron Nola next. Aaron Nola, obviously, top end for the Phillies. Like I said, I don't think Nola is going to stick around. Right. I think that there's going to be couple teams that are going to want him specifically. I either have my Red Sox as one team or the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals, I think, are really the GM is really talking this week of adding multiple arms in that rotation. I think when it's all said and done, that the Cardinals are going to get Aaron Nola. But yeah, I just think that specific Cardinals team really needs help on that pitching specifically, and I think that's who they get. How about you, James? Specifically, who do you have there?
I think since the Phillies window is really good right now, I think it'd be a shame if they lost him. I don't think they're gonna let that happen. I think somehow they'll be able to re-sign him. So I think he's gonna stay with Philadelphia.
All right. Next one here is a name that I think a lot of people should be already aware of by now. Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Mm-hmm.
Guy from Japan. Of course, he's kind of the household name outside of Otani in this draft class, or not draft, the free agency market. I have the Red Sox getting Yamamoto. I think that they're going to spend big on this guy. He is a bona fide ace. I mean, he's put up absolutely incredible stuff in the Japanese league. I know, obviously, the numbers typically don't always translate in terms of from Japanese league over to MLB, but this would be somebody that would really help bonify, anchor up that top of the rotation for the Red Sox. So I have the Red Sox getting Yamamoto. How about you?
Jeez. I'm reading so many different ones, and a lot of them are linked to people that really need them, you know? So, let me see. I know the last time they were talking about Arizona, but I'm like, I don't know if they'll make a drastic move like that. So I don't think it would be Arizona.
I'll be crazy, though.
Yeah. It would move them along to the point where it's like, wow, they're willing to spend even though they haven't been doing that. So I don't see that. You know what team has tried to do some spending? Remember last off season, they tried to get a big name like 3 or 4 times but struck out. The San Francisco Giants. I think they're going to get them. Yeah. I'm going to go with the Giants.
I like it. I've heard about the Giants. They're kind of starting to see if they can get some revenge after striking out on a bunch of guys. Next guy here, I have Cody Bellinger. Of course, he had great numbers with the Cubs last year. And James, I think that he's going to resign with the Cubs. I think that with the Craig Counsell move there, I think that he sticks around. I know that, of course, they didn't pick up. He opted out of the overall deal there. But if the Cubs don't resign him, I think that the Yankees will. I think that the Yankees are really high on that list. The Yankees really desperately missed power on the outfield last year. So if he doesn't resign with the Cubs, I'll say the Yankees. So how about you?
Yeah, I have the same thing. Literal same thing. I think just, man, he was so good for so long, and I think the league finally found out how to strike him out. And then he kind of had a resurgence last year out of nowhere. That'll help him in this negotiations. For me, sadly, I think I have him with the Yankees. I think they're going to be that desperate to go out for power in the outfield, like you mentioned. I think he's going to be a Yankee.
All right, I'm going to name a couple more other ones, and then James, the ones that I didn't get to mention. If you want it, I'll take you a turn, and you can start naming me some free agents as well too. So I could kind of give myself a little bit of a break here. Josh Hader is next. Now, Josh Hader obviously put up really great numbers, right? He has been a very good closer for many years. Just looking at a ton of teams, this is the team that makes the most sense. A team that had a really hard time closing games last year. And if they get this overall guy specifically, I mean, they could be really scary for sure in the next couple of years. That's the Texas Rangers, defending champs. They obviously, their bullpen, I know Jose Leclerc had a really great stuff on the postseason last year, but you put a guy in Josh Hader, a guy that knows how to close games out, right? Has very electric stuff, and, go from Aroldis Chapman to him, right? Absolute massive upgrade there. I'm going to go with Josh Hader to the Rangers.
Ooh, okay. You know he can't go 4 outs. He won't pitch 2 innings for you. That's in his contract.
Mhm.
So that's going to play into some hands there. Oh, man. I want to say the Rangers, but I want to say a team just out of nowhere signs him.
There's another one too I had, but I don't know if you'll know the one I have
White
thinking
Sox.
too. You said White Sox?
Yeah. That's
Okay,
what I
that
kept
was the one I
hearing.
had.
Yeah, that's what I
Interesting.
kept hearing.
Yeah, they might
I
not
feel
keep
like
William Hendricks anymore. So
I feel like they're just gonna move on and maybe just get a
Mhm.
sexy name, but not really do anything with it. Okay, so I'll give you Jordan Montgomery. For me, I think Texas resigns him somehow. What do you think about
Mhm.
Jordan Montgomery?
Yeah, I know that today that there was reports out that the Red Sox were talking with him, which I would
Ooh,
absolutely love. Yeah,
yeah,
the GM meetings already so far that the Red Sox need pitching. Montgomery would be a solid number 2 right now.
hell
If
yeah.
that's the best, the Sox really need 2 top end caliber arms, and the fact that Craig Bresslow's already talking potentially with Montgomery's overall team over there, that would be awesome to see. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Texas really wants to keep him, so I think Texas.
He was so important on their way to the World
Yep.
Series championship. Okay, so Isaiah's favorite guy and one he ragged on and then went on to beat the A's, Matt Chapman, the third
Mm.
baseman. For me, it man, this is tough. If certain players don't go to certain places, maybe I'll say the Giants or the Cubs.
Mm.
It just
Mm.
depends on Bellinger, and then it depends on um, that Japanese pitcher. So I'm gonna go for now. I'll go the Cubs if Bellinger doesn't resign. What do you think about Matt Chapman?
So of two places, the Giants, like you mentioned, I think the Giants could definitely get him. I feel like a team's going to overspend for him. I think that
Mm-hmm.
his glove's great, but I just think that his bat's kind of overrated. He showed flashes in Oakland, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that there's going to be a team that's going to want to overspend for him. His defense, obviously, though, is the reason why, right? His defense is phenomenal. The other team's the Phillies. I think the Phillies could definitely make an upgrade on that corner spot. Then you'd have Chapman, and you have Turner, right?
Thanks.
Then you have Stott, and then you'd have Harper at first base. That would be a fantastic infield.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I wouldn't be shocked if Nebraska would pull off a move for that to really kind of keep their infield core intact. And you'd have pretty much a core of Chapman, Turner, Stott, and Harper for years to come. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's either the Giants or the Phillies.
Okay, 34-year-old Sonny Gray. He just turned
Mm.
34. For me, starting pitcher, I don't know if the Braves, they kind of panic. I
Yeah,
think
I've had the Braves.
they need more bullpen help more than anything. The Dodgers are out there. The Tigers are maybe a name
Hmm.
to look after as well. I don't think I don't know if the Dodgers do that just because they'll have some guys coming back. That'd be if they didn't get Shohei. That's what I
Hmm.
think. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
say Detroit for now for Sonny Gray. What do you think?
I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I think that the Cardinals have
Yeah.
multiple arms, and I think that I have Noah in this case going to St. Louis. I think that Gray follows in, and then you can really kind of get a sense. Right? Wainwright obviously he's older; he's gonna retire. Miles Mikolas, you don't really expect a lot out of him to be in your top end of your rotation. Montgomery's obviously out. I think that they bring in two guys, Nola and Sonny Gray. In my case, Gray would obviously give him a decent amount of innings. He's obviously shown a lot of great flashes of him being a good pitcher. And Gray doesn't like pitching in big markets. We've already seen, obviously, he pitched in New York. It wasn't great. St. Louis is a place where kind of a Miller type market, kind of like Minnesota in a way. And I feel like he just pitched well there. He'd have a lot of good success in that ballpark. So I go Sonny Gray to St. Louis.
Okay, we know this starting pitcher will not go to the Dodgers. Eduardo Rodriguez.
Nope.
He denied a trade from Detroit to go there.
Mm-hmm.
He's been rumored to Boston, Cincinnati, Chicago White Sox for some reason. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say Cincinnati. I think they need a starter that
Yeah.
can be dependable. That's why I say Cincinnati. What do you think about Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think Cincy. I want to rule out the Mets. I think that the Mets obviously they
Ooh,
need some middle of the
yeah.
rotation help. Senga obviously is there, right?
That's
If
it.
they did even if they got Yamamoto, I feel like he could be kind of the Chris Bassett, kind of
Yeah.
that third guy. It gives you a decent amount of innings because I really don't see the Mets kind of that middle to the back end, kind of really what they have, and I think that Erod could be like a fairly good 2B, 3A type of pitcher with them. So I could really see kind of the Mets as a sleeper pick for Erod, but I do like the Reds. I think that for a team that's really younger, I'm not going to overspend for a lot of guys. Erod's going to come at a fairly decent cost, kind of compared to some of these other guys on the market. So I would say the Reds, but watch out for the Mets. I think the Mets, and especially with Jose Quintana, I think he'd be like a better upgrade than Quintana in that middle part of that rotation. So give me potentially the Mets, but I think the Reds probably the better chance.
Okay, so JD Martinez declined, or the Dodgers declined his option to come back, so he's free.
Yeah.
I know the Angels have been rumored, among others.
Mm.
I guess depending on Shohei's thing, I'm gonna say he goes to the Angels. What do you think about former Red Sox JD Martinez?
I have JD Martinez going to the Seattle Mariners. I think the Mariners
Ooh,
really need some help. Middle part of that order. Teoscar Hernandez likely probably won't stick around with them. I think I have him going somewhere else. So he could bring that middle part of that bat. Remember, J Rod, in terms of his numbers last year, was fairly inconsistent. Ty France, same thing. JD Martinez, still West Coast, middle part of that lineup. I would like that fit there. So I'm going to go Seattle for JD Martinez. And it'll be like a
and
1 year type deal. Just something about Seattle there. I think it would be awesome.
you mentioned Toscar Hernandez.
Hmm.
I can see my Angels somehow getting him for no reason. Where do you
Like
think
the hunt.
Hernandez goes?
I have him going back to Toronto.
Yeah,
Kevin Kiermaier is going to be a free agent this offseason. So they're going to have an open spot in the outfield. Teoscar, I think, really liked being in Toronto there, that overall vibe. You still would have Vladdy, Yusuf, Bichette. Um, I think that the Blue Jays, I don't think they're going to go high and spend a lot of top tier talent, but I think Teoscar would be a guy that they bring back. I'm going to go with him.
okay. Candelero, first name
Mm-hmm.
Jameer.
Jaimir. I think it's Jaimir.
Jaimir.
But
Jaimir
yeah.
Candelero. Remember, he was traded from Washington to the Cubs. The Cubs, they liked him. I don't know if they would bring him back. He's also rumored to the Royals, and if Chapman leaves, to the Blue Jays. I'm going to go with Kansas City on this one. What do you think?
I don't know. Something about give me 1 second. Let's see. I was gonna say the Twins, but they have Royce Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City, I could definitely see. It could be right next to Bobby Witt Jr. Man, third base. A lot of teams that need third base up. Yeah, I would probably go with Kansas City. Probably a team that's gonna be a lot on the lower market side. A team that doesn't have a lot of spending money. They'll probably spend like high on him. Candelario specifically. Yankees. I think the Yankees really might take a look at him too, because I know that they were interested in him last year as well.
Exactly,
So
in the trade deadline.
yeah, so I think that if the Yankees want to spend, they're probably going to be more kind of that overall tier, kind of unlike a lot of Yankee fans around me and my market specifically. Oh, we want Soto, we want. And I don't think a lot of the Yankee fans are talking highly as much as Ohtani as Soto. They've been honestly crazy about Soto. But I think that they get Bellinger and they got a Candelario.
Now, this next guy's stock went up in the postseason in the National League on the Diamondbacks. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Man, the Royals are interested, the Yankees, but he would have to cut the hair, and then the Mariners. This one, I don't know. You want him to stay with the Diamondbacks somehow, but I think someone's gonna overpay for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say if the Royals don't get Candelario, they'll probably get Gurriel Jr.
I'm gonna go with the Mets. I think the Mets really need some outfield right-handed help. They just moved on from Arcana last year, and I think that he could kind of bring a similar type of feel. A guy that could really bring us a lot of defense, some timely hitting, kind of be in that number 5, 6 hole range. So yeah, I think the Mets would be an awesome fit. And I was reading. I love watching these guys on YouTube kind of talk about the free agent predictions, and there was one that had Gurriel going to Houston, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Because Houston, they might not brought Michael Brantley back, right? It makes a lot of sense. Their outfield, I think, maybe needs some of that thump in that 5-6 range, some right-handed outfield type thump. So Houston, I think, could be really a fascinating fit there, especially power bat swing, especially on the Crawford boxes. So I'd either go with the Mets or the Astros.
All right, Marcus Stroman,
Mhm.
stupidly signed with the Cubs, and obviously that wasn't going to be a fit. I didn't understand that. The Dodgers are rumored, Philadelphia Twins.
I think he
Man,
stays.
yeah, I think he does too with the Cubs.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Other one I have Jorge Soler. Remember, he's
Yep,
not
I
back
like
with
that.
the Marlins. He's rumored to the Blue Jays, the Astros, and Mets. I could definitely see him with either the Blue Jays or Mets. I'm gonna go with the Mets on this for Soler.
Yeah, I mean, I have if I have Gurriel going to the Mets, and I also have him obviously looking at the Astros too. Uh, Toronto, I think would be an awesome place there, right? Uh, Man, it'd be there could be a lot of places for Soler.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of tough. Maybe the Brewers. I think that the Brewers maybe could take a look at him. Outfield, maybe some power
Yeah.
there, because I know that the Brewers are really struggling with some outfield production. I know that obviously Yelich is of course there. Um, yeah, I'd probably go with like the Brewers or a team that will just need outfield pop because he'll bring it. He had 35 bombs last year.
Okay, this reliever can throw over 100 miles per hour. He was traded from
Hmm.
St. Louis to Toronto. Jordan Hicks. Orioles,
Oh,
Yankees, and Tigers are rumored to get him. I'm gonna say the Yankees get him. What do you think?
I'm gonna go with the Tigers. I think the Tigers will spend big on some guys this year. They don't really have a solidified closer, of course, outside of Alex. I forgot his last name. Uh, Lange, Alex Lange. I think he's more
Oh
of a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
setup guy, but the Tigers had a really hard time, kind of like the Rangers, with keeping leads and stuff. And Jordan Hicks, I think, would bring a lot, specifically in that back end, a fireballer, mid market too. So I think that some teams gonna overpay for him specifically. I have to go with Detroit.
Okay, maybe the last one, I guess. I
Yeah, I'll
don't know.
just do some trades after for
Okay,
sure.
Jack Flaherty, because this one's
Mm,
interesting to me because everybody needs starting pitching. The Royals, the Tigers, the Pirates. I think he goes to Detroit. So what do you think?
hmm Yeah. Flaherty obviously is not the same pitcher he once was. Of course, he's dealt with some injuries in the past. Minnesota. I'm gonna go with the Twins. Kenta Maeda is of course probably gonna be a free agent. He's probably
Mm-hmm.
gonna go somewhere else. Sonny Gray. So yeah, they have Malley there. They're gonna have some openings, I think, on that rotation, and I think that Flaherty could be a decent guy, like that middle part of that rotation, getting a little bit of stability there. So I'm gonna go with the Twins. So
All
I'll
right.
kind of go back to me now, James, because we'll do the trades. Who are some guys specifically before we get into some overall predictions? Guys that you firmly believe that will get traded within the next couple weeks here. So at least for me, I'll go first. I'm gonna go with a couple guys, and I put this on the list. Juan Soto, I don't believe will get
Mm-hmm.
traded, but I think that there'll be some calls. So I obviously we'll have some fun with it, and we'll have Juan Soto out there, kind of in terms of where some teams for him. Luis Robert Jr. I think that Luis Robert
Yeah.
Jr. has a really good chance of getting traded. There was a lot of rumors during the season, and I think that there's going to be a team that will find a way to trade for him. So I'm going to go Luis Robert Jr. Um, Fernando Tatis Jr. Watch out because the Padres, I think, really are going to have to try to find a way to shed some salary, right?
Ooh.
I think that Tatis, yeah, he has a little bit of baggage. Maybe they're going to have to find a way to either keep Soto, Tatis, Bogarts, right? Cronenworth. They're not going to be able to keep everybody. So watch out for Fernando Tatis Jr., Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, we didn't talk about during free agency. I think that he's going to get dealt. I think that personally that the White Sox and probably Caesar probably moved on there, so I think that he'll get dealt. Corbin Burns to me, I think will get dealt as well too. Man, trying to just think if there's any other guys right now. Tyler Glasnow, James. I don't know if you heard that, but the Rays might move on from Glasnow.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard some of that speculation there. I don't think it'll happen, but there is a team that I talked with Isaiah about that could get Glasnow. And yeah, that's kind of pretty much it for right now. So,
God. The Giants, I see, could make some outfield moves because their offense was really bad. I mean, there's your Skrimsky and Slater, but yeah, you kind of want to upgrade.
Jock
If you
Peterson's a free agent too. So
Yeah, if you can't get Bellinger, which that would look odd, they might trade for Kevin Kiermaier, Harrison Bader, Michael A. Taylor, but all those three have injury concerns. I think the Giants are going to be definitely active. If they can't get anybody, in the free agency again, they'll probably make some trades. Man, for some trade rumors again. You mentioned Soto. I think they're going to write it out one more year since you have them. Yeah. But the thing is, they have money concerns. I mean, they don't have a cable television deal right now, and everybody else except the Diamondbacks do.
They're so cheap.
Yeah, but they don't have a payroll like the Padres do, so that's interesting to note. And then they have too many shortstops, too many infielders that they moved Tatis Jr. to right field, and that's been fun, but it's not sustainable. It never has been. It never will be. Man, I'm trying to think of anybody else. I know the Angels probably won't make. Nobody probably. I know Joe Odell is out there, the outfielder, and he probably would have got more. But he hasn't fared as well in the majors, but he does well at AAA. So that's interesting to note for him. Jonathan India, remember he was in
I forgot
the trade deadline talks, and I'm thinking, why? They're building something in Cincinnati, and he's one of the elder, I guess, people on the Reds. But all of a sudden, that has become a popular name today, or at least this morning, as the GM meetings have come to start. So the Yankees might go after another starter via trade. Blue Jays
maybe the Mariners might deal a pitcher too. Maybe Logan Gilbert. Maybe George Kirby. I've heard possibly that they're trying to get an outfielder that the Mariners will. I don't think they'll probably deal Gilbert or Kirby, but I don't want to roll that out either. I mean, if there was an over package that essentially would just over the top, they couldn't afford, I think that they'll be active in trade talks.
You mentioned the Brewers, and if only the Angels had something they could trade like outfield help, maybe the Brewers can do that. Because Angels have some outfitters they'd be looking to part ways with. Meanwhile, the Angels need pitching. So I think that would be a good trade for both, depending on the results, of course. So you mentioned Corbin Burns. I wouldn't mind having him. So that'd be a really good thing. I can't really think of anybody else, honestly. But here we go. Maybe...
You don't
I don't think Mike. Right? I just saw that, and he would have to. He would have to be. How do I explain this? He would have to go out of his comfort zone in order to ask for a trade. He feels so good there that hey, I don't want to leave this. Paul Blackburn of Oakland is a starter that maybe the Yankees go after. Or Red Sox, Cardinals, Orioles. The Orioles can go, cheap maybe with that.
Yeah, that sounds like an Oriole move.
Margot with the Rays might be on the move because they have a lot of talent out there. Ezekiel Duran might be because they already have, so much in the infield now. And maybe he'll get traded out of Texas to got maybe Chicago, the Cubs, or the White Sox, since Tim Anderson will probably be
I
gone.
think he'll be gone. Yeah.
Willie Adames, don't be surprised. Maybe the Brewers move from
Ooh,
him.
I like that.
I wouldn't mind having that dude. Shane Bieber from
Yeah,
Cleveland.
Bieber. Yep.
The Angels might go after. I'm hoping would go after him.
Bieber's not. I don't think gonna take a lot either. He's not gonna cost a lot.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Injuries and just not the same guy, but he's still effective.
There's some other like Alex Verdugo. What do you think about him? Do you think he'll get traded?
I do. I think that we're going to try to the last couple years that the Red Sox have tried to deal Doogie, and I think that this outfield we're kind of in a jam of kind of just a lot of guys in the outfield. Some younger guys. Remember, Jaron Duran really blossomed this past year. Cedric Raphael, of course, is a top rookie. I think personally that we're going to try to trade for Verdugo. That's why I'd love to see if the Mariners maybe had Kirby or Gilbert available. If we traded Verdugo to the Mariners, and maybe even if the Mariners don't move on from Gilbert or Kirby, maybe like Bryce Miller, like a really young prospect pitcher that the Mariners could take. Like I wouldn't mind that because the Red Sox really need to get some pitching, like prospects specifically in their system. So I do, James, to answer your question, I do think Doogie will get dealt. As painful for me to say, but they're gonna have to make some tough choices. I think he'll be one of them.
Okay, I'll leave you with two Cardinals that should have got traded at the deadline but did not. So Dylan Carlson, and Tyler O'Neill, both outfielders for St. Louis. I'm guessing if everything doesn't go well for the Yankees and their free agent signings, maybe they'll go for Carlson, and then O'Neill would probably go to Minnesota. That's my two predictions there.
Ooh. Yeah, Carlson feels like a last resort Yankee move.
Mm-hmm.
O'Neill could just give some teams some other ones too, just some outfield depth out there. Kind of feels like a Michael A. Taylor type, guy will bring speed, decent glove. So I don't know, just a team that probably needs some.
Okay, one more. Eloy Jimenez. Maybe the Blue Jays go after him or the Mets.
Ooh.
But he has to get out of Chicago, I think.
Yeah. If the White Sox really want to go full rebuild, right? Feels like Cease is probably gonna be gone. We haven't even talked about Cease yet. Barber Jr., if he gets dealt, which could very well happen. Mike Clevenger, of course, is gone. Tim Anderson, of course, is gonna be gone. Liam Hendricks is gonna be gone. I wouldn't be shocked if Benintendi. They had calls of Benintendi. That White Sox team is an absolute colossal mess. That front office is one of the worst in baseball. So, I don't want to rule it out to just blow it all up.
Totally. That's really all I have I can think of.
Yeah, I think we
those
got
are
a lot. I mean,
great.
Yeah,
those other guys,
the last one, but
like Giolito, but he didn't fare too well, and he was moved around 3 times last year. It was really no one he'll be a late pickup, maybe in spring training.
Michael Walker, maybe kind of in that
Seth Lugo
as well. Seth Lugo, yeah. But I think we got through a lot of the top ones. So this free agency class isn't that strong this year. But
the trades.
John Morosi said that executives believe that this year the trade market's going to be a lot more active than the last couple of years. And, deservedly so, because it's just the free agency class isn't as active. So teams are going to have to call and kind of go the other route. So it's kind of the way it's going to have to happen. So that'll pretty much be it for baseball talk. Like I said, we pretty much got through a decent amount of that stuff, and pretty much outside of that stuff and the manager stuff, there's pretty much nothing else that we can get into. So, James, with that being said, let's get into some final thoughts. So, like I said, it's a lot earlier of a show. We kind of ended a lot earlier than typical, but I don't hate that. And obviously, we did some NFL stuff. We talked about some of the winners and losers from this past week, our predictions for this weekend. Like I said, this slate is not as great as last week. Did a little bit of NBA talk, right? Kind of the first couple weeks of the season, some early kind of glimpses of some guys, right? I got into a little bit of the team report. And then some baseball, right? We got into pretty much a lot of our predictions of some guys in terms of where they can go, right? And we'll probably get into some more rumblings, of course, when Isaiah comes back on too. We'll kind of do like a 3 type of panel of kind of that as well too, because we'll throughout the rest of the week too, there'll be some more rumblings, kind of like the last couple weeks have been here. But until the signs start happening, that's pretty much only kind of what we can talk about. And once the signs kind of start happening around, that's when the reactions, the fun stuff will start to begin. So yeah, just overall great show. Thank you for joining. Isaiah, thanks for coming on and commenting and all that fun stuff as well too. Hopefully you're feeling all right. And for those that did join, I appreciate it all. We'll try to have a show maybe later on during the week. I know that we're gonna have a Batter Up show this week at some point here on this network. So that's pretty much what else I have to say, and I'll take it away to you, James. Anything you want to talk about?
No, but it was good. Hey, good to catch up with you again and get through the sports news because, I always mention this. The MLB, man, the off season is so good.
It is. It's so fun.
Yeah, and especially right now as the awards are coming out, and then the trade rumors.
Next show we'll do awards. Yeah, for sure.
The free agent rumors come out here now, and it's that time of the year. And you mentioned with Ron Washington meeting with the Angels tonight. I should have stayed, near the stadium. I was around the stadium yesterday, but I should have went to the stadium tonight. And, hold up a lit sign, saying, please come to, Anaheim, Ron Washington. But I'm not a fanboy like that. But I hope that he ends up signing to manage the Angels. If not, Buck Showalter would be okay. But I really want Ron Washington. I think he would tighten up the players, get them on the right track, especially the young players. They need that kind of discipline. They need that little swift kick in the you-know-what. So I think that'd be great. So hopefully, we'll find out this week who will be the next Angel manager, and we'll talk about it. And maybe I'll have whatever feeling I had about the Raiders earlier, maybe I'll have that about the Angels one day again. We'll see what happens.
Sure. Definitely, for sure. So with that being said, guys, thank you all for joining here with Kruse. Make sure to follow, like, comment on the IM6 and MI6 Sports Network. Any other comments here? When the 49ers are doing, Edward Lee, thanks for joining. I think it's... What are the 49ers maybe doing? I don't know.
What the 49ers doing?
Yeah,
they're getting healthy. That's all it is.
Yeah, they're getting some reinforcements back. Hopefully, Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams probably will come back this week. So, yeah, but that's pretty much it for tonight, guys. Thank you guys for joining Kicking with Kruse. Like I said, make sure to join our MI6 Sports Network for all the latest stuff here on this network, all the fun stuff, specifically stream-wise. Maybe we'll get into some more. Watch parties coming up, with all these sports coming up. So obviously we'll keep in tune with that because that was the stuff was a lot of fun for baseball. So without further ado, we'll get into our outro, and thank you guys for watching and have a great night.
Oh my God! Big goal to go from the two. Toss sweep right for James White. Cuts it under the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. Diving to the goal line. A touchdown and a title for the Patriots. I can't believe it. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. 45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything's possible.